Please stand, everyone. Place your hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
My pleasure.
We welcome those who are here for purposes of addressing the board at the proper time and in the order of their request. For those who have not already submitted a request, we have provided forms in the back of the room and also have additional copies here in front at the Assistant Secretary's position at the district. If you wish to speak during the meeting, please fill out a form indicating your name and the agenda item you wish to address. You may also make a request to give testimony on an item not listed for discussion today. However, full discussion on any items not listed on the agenda will have to be delayed until such time as the item can be publicly posted in advance as a regular agenda item. If you wish to ask questions, please address them to the chair and not the individual members of the board or to the staff. The board is in the meeting in closed session regarding matters listed on today's closed session agenda and wishes to report that no reportable actions were taken. We are at public hearings. There are none. Call for agenda items for separate action. Adoption of the agenda is posted.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. Call for the vote, voicemail vote. All in favor, Megan?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
Felton, the votes aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Approval of minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Okay, call for the vote. All in favor, Member Kerr,
Aye.
Member Meyer,
Aye.
Member Greathead,
Aye.
Member Benitez.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Communications, we have none. Public testimony on items listed on the agenda. Let me ask Chris to weigh in on this. I understand we've got quite a few requests, Chris.
Yes, Dr. Williams and members of the board, we have 53 comments for items on the agenda and 100 for items not on the agenda. And just to give you a parameter of what's happening for the meeting, we have about an hour and 45 minutes of business to take care of tonight. And there are other over another 100 that didn't agenda requests that did not make it in time. So we will be giving copies of all the agenda comments to the board and giving them to you after tonight's meeting.
So Chris, on items listed on the agenda, we have approximately 100 requests.
On items listed on the agenda, there are 53, and items not on the agenda, there are 100.
Okay.
President Williams,
Yes.
I know that we've done this in the past when we've had a lot of requests for public comments. I'd like to move to extend our public comment period beyond the 30 minutes that we currently have.
So what are we talking about in terms of time?
To give an opportunity to have as many, to have us hear from as many community members that took the time and made the effort to submit.
Yeah, listening, I'd like to figure out how to accommodate that, Member Benitez, but as we look down the agenda, we're going to have devoting quite a bit of time to items on this agenda tonight.
If I may add, Dr. Benitez, if those folks were here in person, I would heartily agree. But since they are written to us, I think we should stick to our time limit.
Okay. Any other board member want to weigh in?
I am in support of extending the time, but I think we need to be reasonable about what that is. So if we're looking at 53 comments and 100 comments, we're looking at 8 hours of public comment. So I think if Dr. Benitez has a suggestion on what's a reasonable time limit, in addition to the hour and 45 minutes of business that we have to do in addition to that, and discussion that we'll have then, I'm open to that.
So I have a thought. Can we cut each statement down to 2 minutes so that we can read more and extend by 30 minutes so that we have an hour of public comments on items and we can hear from more people? You know, I appreciate that we're going to get copies of this, but I think, you know, given the context of folks not being able to participate in person, given the pandemic that we're still in, but also given events over the last couple of weeks, with the tragedy of George Floyd and our communities coming out in public, my suggestion would be to limit the individual public comment to 2 minutes, extend our public comment to an hour, and that way we can hear from as many perspectives and in these trying times as possible.
An hour for each section, or just an hour for agendized item?
So how many, I'm sorry, I missed this. How many items on the agenda do we have, Mr. Superintendent?
So on the agenda, you have 53, and items not on the agenda, you have 100.
So I'm open for suggestions.
A comment, if I may. It puts a tremendous burden on Letitia. She's reading these letters, trying to boil it down to 2 minutes to ferret out, you know, the most meaningful phrases. It's better. I don't object if you want to extend the time, but I think we should hear in total the comments that have been written, even though we can't hear them all.
I'm okay with that. And my big point here is to hear from as many folks as possible. So if we extend time and keep it at 3 minutes, as long as we can get through as many, and I know it's tough, Leticia, you and the superintendent, you know, I would just, you know, suggest that we also think at future meetings of a better way, perhaps so that we don't have the same person reading the comments over and over again. Maybe we can alternate or just come up with an alternative way so that we don't want to drain Leticia, right, with 1 hour of reading.
We do have two people reading tonight.
Okay, that's great.
So what I'm hearing is a request to extend the time to at least an hour for testimony on items listed on the agenda. We'll get to the other one later on items not listed to the agenda. We're talking about 100 items there. But for items listed on the agenda, what I'm hearing is 1 hour. Is that what I'm hearing? Or is that not?
I am fine with that.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, Letitia, we're going to extend it to 1 hour.
Okay.
For items listed on the agenda, and 3 minutes each.
Okay, so Mr. Superintendent, you will let me know when the 3 minutes are up.
Correct.
Okay. So we will begin with Judy Caldwell. Dr. Jill Baker, first of all, congratulations on your new assignment. I would recommend your salary stay at the rate of $287,000 per year. I would recommend the board allocate 58.
Excuse me, colleagues, yeah. I'm getting a lot of feedback on my end. Can we either try to mute or do something? I'm getting a sustained echo.
Okay. Is this better now? I would recommend the board allocate $58,000 per year to where the need is greatest for kids. If schools open up in the fall, then use $3 for hand sanitizer and masks for every classroom. Keep our teachers and kids safe. If that is not an option, then pay some teachers to mentor kids or implement some after-school reading programs or implement some fun field trips for high school pathways. I remember the days when the superintendent gave away free tickets to kids to go see the Long Beach Aquarium. Please spend extra dollars on kids and not management. Thank you for listening to my suggestions. We know you will do a wonderful job in Long Beach Unified. Best regards, Mrs. Caldwell. Next, we have Lisa Ruggiero. To the Board of Education, I am not only an LBUSD teacher, but I am also an LBUSD parent. Normally, I am proud to be LBUSD, but after the last board meeting, I am not nearly as proud. After what occurred at the last board meeting, I am surprised and disappointed that the board decided on such a high raise for Jill Baker. Over the last 3 months, people in our community have been losing their jobs or have taken huge cuts in their pay because they can't work or their hours have been cut. Stores and businesses have closed, some for good, and most businesses have suffered financially due to this pandemic. People are hurting. Our district is facing deep cuts in our budget right when we have to face costly measures to ensure the safety of our children when they return to school in the fall. If they return to school in the fall. I agree with the hiring of our new superintendent, but I strongly disagree with the decision for a pay raise. I truly believe that decision was financially irresponsible and does not show that the board is in touch with what their community is facing. When the pandemic is over, when our budget becomes more stable, and when we are not having to suffer through such deep cuts, that might be a time to consider a pay raise. Thank you for your time. Next, we have Stacy Velasquez. I am completely in shock of the news that the new superintendent, Jill Baker, accepted a $100,000 raise after hearing that news that the district will be cut by 10%. I can't believe that Dr. Williams, Megan Kerr, Diana Craighead, and John Meyer would vote yes. This is such a heart-wrenching time to hear after hearing of cuts that could take away vital services to our children and families as well as teachers. Shame on you. Next, we have John Solomon. Dear Long Beach Unified Board of Education, my name is John Solomon. I am a 22-year teacher with LBUSD and currently serve on the TALB Executive Board and the TALB bargaining team. I want to speak on Dr. Baker's salary. I am sure Dr. Baker will do a great job in her new position. I understand that our current superintendent, Mr. Steinhauser, was underpaid, but he ran this district superbly in his 18 years, and he didn't need to be paid what other district superintendents make. In this current time of drastic cuts to public education, how can you even consider such a large salary increase? If times were better, maybe this salary would be acceptable. It would be financial prudent to start Dr. Baker at Mr. Steinhauser's current salary and move upward from there. As a teacher in Long Beach, all we hear is the Long Beach way. We get national praise for the Long Beach way. When we receive awards, we hear the Long Beach way. Is it the Long Beach way to give such a big raise to an incoming superintendent with no experience running a district while telling other employees and teachers that there will be drastic cuts and layoffs in the future? LBUSD also likes the phrase all means all. If other employees have to suffer cuts and no raises in the near future, then current administrators should also bear the hard times with us. All means all. Please practice what you preach. John Solomon. Now we have Patti Martinez. To the members of the Board of Education, I'm a longtime Long Beach resident and teacher who is concerned about the budget. I saw my colleagues all over the district do what we've never done before, teach our students remotely. We know that these are unprecedented times, and with that has come financial uncertainty for their foreseeable future. Since the budget will not allow for certificated and classified staff to have raises next year, I think no one should receive raises. That includes employees who will be promoted and already earn much more than those who actually work with students inside and outside of the classroom. As you wrestle with what will likely be a deficit budget, please consider exactly how the money will be spent. Our physical schools will eventually open in some form, and my concern is whether there will be funds for every school to keep their students and staff safe. Will school employees be supplied with masks, hand sanitizer, gloves, and cleaner for every desk, every period? Will there be thermometers available to take and record everyone's temperature every day? Will there be extra masks for students who need them? Will there be adequate ventilation and cooling in every classroom when it's hot and miserable, especially with masks on? Will there be enough nurses? Additionally, what student programs will be cut in order to give raises to those who have been promoted? I wonder if all of us are tightening our belts or if the rank and file are expected to bear the load. When you make these kinds of budgetary decisions, please consider whom it is that we're here for. From the superintendent to the recess aides, every single person performs his or her job because of and for our students, and they should be our number one concern. Please know that the decisions you make will send a clear message to not only our students, but also to those who continue to work directly with students day after day, sometimes in conditions that are less than ideal. If we truly are all in this together, then we should all sacrifice together for our students. Although not ideal, employees can be promoted without raises. It happens in industry all of the time. The happiness and well-being of our children should be at the forefront of all budgetary decisions made by the board. So raises for all of us should wait until the district's financial situation improves. Thank you for allowing me to express to my opinions. Next, we have Christina Johnson. I live in zip code 90815. I am commenting on agenda item number 25, adoption of the district's budget. As a parent of 2 white LBUSD students, I would like to voice my unconditional support for anti-racism policies and Black-centered reforms in our schools. When Black students do better, all students do better. And all children, not just white children, deserve to have their stories centered in their education and to be a part of a learning community that recognizes their ancestors' history, their unique struggles, their contributions to our society, and current issues facing their community. In particular, Black students and all students would benefit immensely from a Black Lives Matter curriculum that would explain and explore the real history behind the inequality we see today and how children can be empowered to help end racism. Also, Black children deserve an education that closes the gap in ELA and math scores so that they are well positioned to go into the world and affect positive change in their communities and our world at large. Please implement anti-racism policies, hiring practices, and curriculum in order to best serve LBUSD students, especially its Black students, who deserve so much more than they have traditionally received. Thank you. Next, we have Rebecca Newcomb. I'm a parent in LBUSD. I'm commenting on agenda item number 25, adoption of the budget. Not that this is anything new, but the given and current momentum of Black Lives Matter movement, this is the perfect time to revisit your intentions towards LBUSD students. With this in mind, I respectfully put forth the following changes that need to be implemented immediately. Reinvest in Black children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math. Include both Black Lives Matter and history prior to and separate from slavery of Black Americans in school curriculum, including Seneca Falls, Black Wall Street, etc. Hire more Black teachers. Over 85% of the district teachers are white. And suspensions and replace with mandatory restorative or transformative justice programs. All kids need to be treated equally and with respect in our district. In order to be anti-racist, we need to raise our children to be anti-racist. They need equal representation and opportunities. Now we have Lauren Maltby. I am the parent of Ivory Payton, an incoming kindergartner at Bixby Elementary School, and I would like to submit this comment for today's board meeting. I live in zip code 90804, commenting on the district's budget. These should be top priorities for our school district. Number 1, LBUSD must reinvest in Black children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and Math 2. Utilize Black Lives Matter in school curriculum. There is a full curriculum for K-12. Number 3, hire more Black teachers. Over 85% of the district teachers are white. Number 4, end suspensions and replace with mandatory, restorative, or transformative justice programs. I am the mother of a bright and beautiful Black child. Please make sure she can see herself reflected in her school curriculum and school staff. Thank you. Now we have Brandy Sheffield. She resides in 90815. My entering 5th grade African-American autistic son is a beautiful child with a kind heart, compassionate towards others, and a brilliant logical thinker. He excels in math and struggles in ELA. The RSP teacher makes minimal effort to work in collaboration with the general ed teacher, creating disjointed work for my son and impeding the optimal transmission of success in reading comprehension by missing out on general ed assignments to only be provided lower grade level work, which is unacceptable. My entering kindergarten African-American girl is vibrant, full of energy, curious, creative, and compassionate. At Tincher CDC, the day was more like childcare than preschool. When I approached the teacher of my concern that she's not recognizing her numbers, does not know sight words or blending, the teacher tried to convince me that she just needed time. In my demand to focus her energy and demand her participation, the teacher pushed back hard. Once I had a conversation with my daughter in front of the teacher of my expectations of her practice and effort. The teacher said, "Whew, now I feel like I can push her." Both scenarios are foolish and unprofessional. RSP should be using relevant grade work to support IEP goals. All teachers should expect the best from all students and involve parents immediately to create a plan of success. It is clear that without advocacy, my 2 Black children would fall in the cracks because the educators lack the level of professionalism to execute the highest outcomes of their job roles. Immediate call to action. I demand that LBUSD reinvest in Black children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math. I demand Black Lives Matter in school curriculum. There is already a full curriculum. It seems like she is repeating herself here, so. Next, we have Breanna Blanchard. Dear Long Beach School Board, my name is Breanna Blanchard and I've lived in Long Beach for 8 years. I've come to know many teachers in the area, such as several teachers at Wilson. Through my choir, I talk to parents of children who are in Long Beach schools. I'm writing about the June 15th meeting, specifically item number 25, addressing the budget. As you assess where to allocate money, discuss how you can make the quality of young Black lives matter. A diverse city like Long Beach should lead the way on improving the health, care, and education for Black students. The amazing school choice option is designed to help change lives, but access is not equal due to a lack of buses for transportation. Address this inequality to better support bright young students. Long Beach can raise the bar on education by incorporating curriculum suggestions from Black Lives Matter at school, and she gives a link on where to get those materials. Finally and critically, change how students are disciplined and ensure teachers actively fight against a bias that sees Black students as more problematic for the same types of behavior. Move away from punishments that take away from education, like suspension, towards restorative or transformative justice programs. These programs move towards a better future for all involved, rather than just doling out punishment. I was fortunate enough to charter schools in Arizona that had these types of programs, and it impacted me forever. Fight for students who are struggling rather than against them. The children of our city are in your hands. Next, we will have Joy read the next comments.
Next is from Javon White. Hello, I am the parent of a 5th and 2nd grader at Prisk Elementary School, and I would like to submit this comment for the LBUSD board meeting tonight. Name Javon White, zip code 90815, commenting on agenda item number 25, adoption of district's budget. My comment, these should be top priorities for our school district. 1, LBUSD must reinvest in Black children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math. 2, utilize Black Lives Matter in school curriculum. There is a full curriculum for K-12. 3, hire more Black teachers. Over 85% of the district's teachers are white. 4, end suspensions and replace with mandatory restorative or transformative justice programs. Next is from Jamie Drew. Hi. As a LBUSD parent, I am requesting that LBUSD reinvest in Black children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math. Additionally, we need to make sure we have Black Lives Matters curriculum for our kids, as well as having representation for more Black teachers. We also need to put an end to suspensions and mandatory restorative or transformative justice programs. The reason that I love Long Beach is our diversity. Let's make sure our schools reflect this diversity in curriculum and teaching staff. Thanks for reading. Next is from Patricia Chin. Patricia lives in zip code 90808. I am writing to support Black students in the district and request anti-racist reforms, such as hiring more Black teachers and counselors, teaching Black Lives Matter curriculum, and providing tutoring instead of applying detention. I am asking for these things because I'm appalled at the murders of Black people that have been happening one after the other. They make me shocked, angry, and sad, and there are probably so many more that we don't know about because they weren't caught on video. Behind every racist murder, there is a string of racist learning experiences, whether they took place in a church, a bar, a ball field, a kitchen, or a classroom. I'm asking you to do everything you can to give every student a fighting chance to come away from our schools determined to be not a racist, but an anti-racist, someone actively working against racism. I say our schools because I attended K-12 at LBUSD. My father was a graduate of Long Beach Poly, and my two daughters attended all but a couple of years at LBUSD. Please help make our schools a place where it's safe, comfortable, and fair for Black students to learn, and help make the world a place that's safe, comfortable, and fair for Black families to live. Thank you. Next is from Sundia Samuel. Hello, I am the parent of a kindergartner at Bryant Elementary School, and I would like to submit this comment for the board meeting tonight. Sundia is from zip code 90804, commenting on agenda item number 25, adoption of district's budget. These should be top priorities for our school district. 1, LBUSD must reinvest in Black children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math. 2, utilize Black Lives Matter in school curriculum, especially when everything going on currently. 3, hire more Black teachers. Over 85% of the district teachers are white, to better represent the community. 4, end suspensions and replace with mandatory restorative or transformative justice programs. Thank you. Next is from Mark Taylor. Hello, I'm the parent of a student moving into 6th grade at Hughes Middle School and a future 1st grade student at Longfellow Elementary School. I am submitting a comment for the board meeting tonight concerning agenda item 25, adoption of the district's budget. Mark lives in zip code 90807. I would like to see our district's budget emphasize behavior management systems that veer away from purely punitive measures, especially suspensions that disproportionately impact Black students. These should include professional development and implementation of both restorative justice, RJ, practices, and culturally responsive pedagogy, CRP practices. Both of these methods require teachers and administrators to devote energy in inspecting their own cultural bias in instruction and classroom management, while working to create classrooms that build community and positive relationships in a manner that proactively approaches factors impacting both students and staff. They also prioritize bringing students back into the community after an issue, as opposed to alienating students from the school as suspensions tend to do. Unfortunately, even stakeholders who support these practices in name often lack adequate training to implement successful RJ and CRP programs at the school level. To do this, PD time, money, and resources need to be allocated for developing teachers at the classroom level, as well as administration at the school level. Thank you. Next is from Adam Anderson. Adam lives in zip code 90712. To whom it may concern, these comments are regarding agenda item number 25, adoption of district's budget. As a parent of a child in LBUSD, 5th grader at Patrick Henry, I would like to see more money invested in closing the achievement gap for African-American students. I would like to see more African-American teachers and school counselors, no more suspensions, restorative and transformative justice as primary discipline measures, transportations for students I need so that they can take advantage of school of choice and other programs. Thank you. Next is Celine Milano. Hello, I am the parent of incoming 6th and 1st graders, and I myself am an LBUSD graduate, Longfellow, Hughes, and Polly, grade class of 99. I am submitting this comment for the LBUSD board meeting tonight. My name is Celine. My zip code is 90807. I am commenting on agenda item number 25, adoption of district's budget. In my 10 years, grades 3 through 12, as an LBUSD student, I have had 0 Black teachers, 0 Black librarians, 0 Black computer teachers, 0 Black music teachers, 0 Black PE teachers. You get it. I had 1 Black co-principal at Poly. I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Black classmates over the years. My eldest daughter just graduated 5th grade. From kindergarten to 5th grade, she also had 0 Black teachers here in LBUSD. She's had 2 Black principals. I'm sending my other kids to LBUSD schools. Please tell me that this pattern will change. It has to change. It should have changed 40 years ago. The year is 2020. I should not be able to say I grew up in Long Beach. That touts itself on diversity, and I had 0 Black teachers in 10 years. There is no excuse whatsoever. Over 85% of the teachers in LBUSD are white. We can't call this an oversight. We can't call this a mistake. We call it what it is, systemic racism, institutional racism. In considering what our school district invests in, I urge you to invest in the safety, health, education, protection of, and real thriving of Black students. I demand you invest in Black teachers. Thank you. Next is from Roberta Dennis. My family and I live in the 90806 zip code. We would like to comment on the adoption of the budget. We want more funds to be invested in closing the performance gap between LBUSD students. This means more investment in Black and Brown students who have fallen behind in ELA and math. We would like funds to be invested in programs like restorative justice that provide a constructive alternative to suspensions and other disciplinary actions. This program builds communities instead of further alienating students of color. We would also like more funds to be directed towards mental health and counseling for students. Our schools need to care for children who have been neglected and underserved. Sincerely, Roberta Dennis. Next is Jean Buchanan. Hello, I am the parent of an incoming 1st grader at Longfellow Elementary School, and I would like to submit this comment for the LBUSD board meeting tonight. Jean's zip code is 90807. Commenting on agenda item 25, adoption of district's budget. My comment, consider the following proposed additions to the budget. 1, utilize Black Lives Matter in school curriculum. There is a full curriculum for K-12. 2, hire more Black teachers. Over 85% of the district teachers are white. Thank you. Next is Danielle Ichiro. Hello, I am the parent of a kindergarten student at Burbank Elementary School, and I am submitting this comment to the LBUSD school board meeting tonight. My zip code is 90802, commenting on agenda item number 25, adoption of district's budget. Comment. My child's school, based on LBUSD demographic information, has more than double the amount of Black students than white students. Yet the vast majority of teachers there are white, and I cannot recall ever seeing a Black teacher when attending school assemblies. Over 85% of LBUSD's teachers are white, which is not representative of our school student population, which is only 12% white. The district must prioritize hiring Black teachers in order to remedy the staggering disparity. Additional ways that LBUSD must address the needs of Black students and families are: 1, replace suspensions which disproportionately impact Black students with restorative and transformative justice programs. 2, address and close the massive achievement gap between Black and white students in math and ELA by reinvesting in Black students. 3, adopt Black Lives Matter curriculum. This curriculum already exists for K-12 students.
Okay, this one is from Krista Richardson. Dear LBUSD, thank you for your service to the students of Long Beach. My 3 white children have benefited all their lives from entrenched racism that pervades our social systems, even despite good leaders with intentions, our school systems. It's not fair. It's not fair that any Black student should have less access, less attention, less representation and leadership, or less of anything their white classmates enjoy. LBUSD must invest in programs that prove to Black students that they belong, that they matter, that their teachers, leaders, and community will work as hard for their success as that for any child among us. Curricula and research exist already to support specific changes. Please do all you can to eliminate racial discrimination that privileges white students at the expense of students of color, especially Black students. We need more Black teachers. We need our teachers trained to identify the way racial bias, intentionally or unintentionally, influences teachers to treat students unequally. For example, documented over discipline of Black students, especially Black boys. I have personally seen this happen in classrooms where I volunteer with my children and on the playground of their elementary school. And suspensions. They only worsen our problems. Instead, implement restorative or transformative justice programs. Invest in Black students. Until systems recognize and correct racial discrimination, we can't claim to be giving all students equal access to the best education LBUSD can offer. Thank you. Long Beach is depending on you. Next, we have Eduardo Lara. My name is Eduardo Lara and my zip code is 90802. This is a public comment regarding agenda item number 25, the budget for the board meeting tonight, and my support of Black students. District budgets are a reflection of its values, and I applaud the board for bold action taken today to champion Black Lives Matter's Long Beach demands in the budget before it goes up for a vote. As an expert on racial justice, I support demands to reinvest in Black students to close the opportunity gap in all content areas, integration of Black Lives Matter K-12 curriculum, the hiring of more Black teachers, and mandatory transformative justice programs in lieu of suspensions. All of these demands align with the spirit of the social movement recently transcending around the globe, demanding an end to racist police violence and institutional discrimination. These matters are situated in 400 years of both overt and structural manifestations of white supremacy, the metaphorical disease that is a cause of the symptom, racism. From slavery to Jim Crow laws, to school segregation, to mass incarceration of Black people furthered by the war on drugs, white supremacist institutions take on new iterations in every generation. Black people have been ringing bells signaling urgency ever since they were ripped from their homeland via the transatlantic enslaved African trade. The bells continue to ring and they're deafening. I urge the board to be on the right side of history by heeding the bells and taking urgent action. Beyond the bells are louder voices, millions and millions of Black voices and their allies chanting for justice to be adopted in every fabric of society, including and perhaps most importantly, schools. Social change begins with the little ones and they look up to adults for leadership by example. Join me as an ally to the Black Lives Matter movement to break the chains of white supremacy so that all Black students can breathe freely in this world, and by extension, all students can breathe. George Floyd never had that opportunity. Let's change that for the kids of LBUSD. In solidarity, Dr. Lara. Next, we have, my name is Cesar Armendariz, and I live in zip code 90804. This is a public comment on item number 25, the budget. I write today in support of Black voices. More specifically, I am writing in support of the parents and students who are part of Black Lives Matter Long Beach. The recent protests and demonstrations are proof that Black folk are tired of living under a system of violence, poverty, and oppression. Our society's systems and institutions have placed many barriers in the path of Black young students. These barriers make it difficult for them to find good paying jobs, affordable housing, healthy food, clean air and water, and quality healthcare. As a teacher, it is with a heavy heart and a deep sense of sadness that I admit that our American system of education is complicit in the oppression of the Black community. I grew up believing that education was the great equalizer, but the data and personal experiences of Black folk paint a very different reality. We have failed Black children. Presently, education is not the great equalizer, but it can be. I have faith that it can be done here in Long Beach. Our city is blessed with incredible students, parents, teachers, and community members. Together, we can reimagine and rebuild a system of education where Black children can thrive. A system where Black students are not suspended at 5 times the rate as white students. A system where they are not 25 points below ELA standards or 62 points below math standards. A system where 100% of our Black students are college and career ready rather than only 23.8% as reported in 2019. Our institutions have failed Black children, but institutions are man-made. I believe that if we work together with the Black community, we can build an educational institution in which Black children become equipped to break down the barriers that they will face as adults. There is not a doubt in my mind that every single LBUSD board member truly cares about every child in the district. The same goes for Mr. Steinhauser and Dr. Baker. All of you have poured your heart and soul into making LBUSD a better place for everyone. The progress and leadership that LBUSD has shown over the past couple decades has prepared us for this moment in history. And this moment is calling us to rebuild and transform our district through the eyes of Black children. Thank you. Next, I have Keisha Champion. Thank you for the opportunity to share my family's experience and concerns. My name is Keisha Champion. My child just completed her 3rd grade year. We live in the 90806 area code of Long Beach. Like many Black parents of Black children, my husband and I worry about our daughter's everyday life and the world around her. Since she was born, we strive to provide her the best experiences and opportunities that life can offer. We were fortunate to ensure the very best early childhood years for her with experiences that supported her social, emotional, cognitive, physical, and cultural developmental needs. When we decided for her to attend public school and toured our neighborhood school, we were greatly disappointed with the lack of opportunities, enrichment programs, and condition of the library, and so on. In our minds, all LBUSD schools would offer STEAM or STEM or bilingual education or some other experience that expands the learning process and allows children opportunities for critical thinking experiences outside of reading, writing, etc. As you can imagine, we were thoroughly dismayed to discover that most of all the schools with enrichment programs were on the other side of town and more than 15 minutes away from our home, or there was little to no chance to get into the school for a variety of reasons, even with school of choice. Thankfully, one of our school of choice options had a space for her. Our family shouldn't have to drive to the other side of town, especially when there is an elementary school right around the corner, in order to allow the deepening of creative, scientific, and mathematical curiosity. An unintended consequence to this situation is that most of all of our daughter's friends live outside of our neighborhood, only being able to drive to school, not walk around the corner or ride our bikes, and knowing a limited amount of children from our neighborhood school. Unfortunately, a predictable consequence is that she is another minority. There is very small number of Black children at her school. It may not be intentional, but it appears that other programs are in neighborhoods outside where people like us live. It has been said that enrichment curriculum is determined by the school and parent population. We've met several families in our neighborhood that opted out. We can only imagine that losing so many parents makes a difference. This is not the first time sharing the observation and concern from our experience, and it may still fall on deaf ears. However, we continue to share, hoping that someone will listen. That being said, there are yet still bigger issues to consider, such as LBUSD reinvest in Black children and close
Mrs. Rodriguez, the time is up.
Okay. Next, we have Ashley Hechtes, and I have 2 daughters in LB schools. We live in 90803 area code. I would like to see the following changes and hope you'll consider the following during your board meeting on Monday, June 15th. I demand LBUSD reinvest in Black children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math. I demand Black Lives Matter movement be included in school curriculum at all levels. I demand LBUSD to hire more Black teachers. I demand LBUSD and suspensions and mandatory restorative or transformative justice programs. Please, let's do this. Black Lives Matter, stop systematic racism. Thank you for your time. Next, we have Alex Friedman. Hello, I'm the parent of an incoming first grader at Florence Bixby School, and I would like to submit this comment for the LBUSD board meeting on Monday, June 15th. And I live in zip code 90815, commenting on the district's budget. These should be top priorities for our school district. Number one, LBUSD must reinvest in Black children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math. Number two, utilize Black Lives Matter in school curriculum. There is a full curriculum for K-12. Number three, hire more Black teachers. Over 85% of the district teachers are white. Number four, end school suspensions and replace with mandatory restorative or transformative justice programs. Thank you. Next, we have Juliette Romero. Good afternoon. I'm writing today on agenda item number 25, the district's budget. What is the district going to ensure that children of color are provided opportunity to an equal education of equity and diversity? That all children, regardless of background, are taught both the positive but also the negative side of our history and how important it is to love and support one another to our fullest potential. My daughter attends Prisk Elementary, and we want to ensure she continue to be afforded the same opportunities as the children of the more affluent areas of the city. I demand that all schools have a racially diverse staff. There are very few teachers of color in our schools. What is the district doing to improve? What is LBUSD doing to reinvest in Black and brown children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math? I demand an end to suspensions and mandatory restorative or transformative justice programs. Thank you. This is from Artie Harper. Dear LBUSD School Board, I write to you as an East Long Beach 90814 LBUSD non-Black parent of a non-Black children who is deeply concerned for how Black students are faring in our school district. I have also spent decades professionally working in the fields of youth development, education reform, public health, and public safety in cities with similar demographics to Long Beach. Our city council unanimously voted yes for the framework for reconciliation last Tuesday to advance racial equity in our city systems. This demonstrates their shared commitment to address systemic racism and advance equity for all residents. Tonight, you have the opportunity to do the same within our school district. Approving this framework demonstrates LBUSD's systemic commitment to dismantling structural inequities. We cannot simply leave it up to the individual school leaders to implement programs at their discretion. We all know those end up as one-offs or sporadic with minimal accountability. I understand school districts prefer programs to policies, but on something like systemic racism, we need a system-wide policy under which all practices and programs align. We need a new 2020 Long Beach promise for all that serves all students and with greater prioritization and inclusion of our Black students, who, like their peers, are so full of promise and potential, but often penalized and undervalued by our systemic practices and policies. Examples of policies needed. Number one, establish ethnic studies as a graduation requirement for all students. This should not be a Saturday elective as it is now, but rather required learning on Native American, Black, Latinx, and Asian studies for all students. Our white students are especially in need of this education, as research shows primarily white, wealthier areas is where racism thrives, like East Long Beach. Number 2, implement a district-wide restorative justice policy. One-off trainings like TIME and discretionary implementation of second step in elementary schools are not enough. LBUSD must implement restorative and holistic policies and practices across our district at all grade levels that serve as alternatives to suspension and support student social and emotional well-being. Number 3, require mandatory implicit bias and anti-racism training and professional development for all 10,000 plus employees. These must no longer be optional. All means all. Our staff practices must align with the framework's goal of eliminating systemic bias.
Mrs. Rodriguez, time is up.
Okay. Next, we have Kaitlyn Flores. Good evening. I'm a mom, PTA member, and professor from the 90815 zip code, commenting on the adoption of the district's budget. I'm writing in support of the key components of the framework for reconciliation in LBUSD. I urge the board to adopt the framework and to take concrete actions towards supporting our children of color, particularly our Black students who have been failed by our educational system. As a school district, we need to reflect on the ways institutional racism exists and has harmed students and families in the district. The district needs not just listening sessions, though that is a start, but real concrete action to address the inequities in the district and to actively integrate anti-racist curricula for teachers, administrators, and students. My demands echo those of many parents. Reinvest in Black children, close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math, incorporate Black Lives Matter curriculum throughout the district. Children as young as kindergarten reflect back the racism of the society we live in. So we must begin their anti-racist education from the very beginning of their educational journey. Hire more Black teachers and teachers of color. My own daughter, who is white, passing Central American, was fortunate to have a first grade teacher of Salvadorian descent who spoke openly and frankly with the children about immigration, discrimination, and helped them imagine how hard it might have been to be a new immigrant in the US. Seeing someone like her who speaks Spanish at home speak out on these issues and in such an important role was incredibly inspiring for her. My wish is that all children see themselves and their experiences reflected in the adults tasked with their care and education. And suspensions. Research has showed over and over again that there are major racial disparities in suspensions and other punitive disciplinary measures in school, from elementary to high school, and that these measures have a significant impact on educational attainment and well-being. One study by Brown University sociologist Jayanti Owens found that different treatment of Black and white students accounted for half of the racial gap in school suspensions and expulsions among 5 to 9-year-old children. Read that again, 5 to 9-year-old children. Enough. And suspensions. Thank you for your time. Next, we have Camila Holmes, and my zip code is 90806. This is a public comment on the adoption of the district's budget, and I am writing in support of Black students. The school is in need of anti-racist reform so that Black students can learn in an environment where they can feel safe and thrive. I believe this should include elimination of the police department from campuses, mandatory ethnic studies, more Black teachers, and a mandatory curriculum that teaches anti-racism and anti-racism training for all staff and faculty, among other things. I had 3 children that went through school in Long Beach, and at least 2 of them had upsetting experiences with racism perpetrated by students and/or staff. These experiences were traumatic and necessitated intensive conversations about racism in my home. These conversations should also be happening at school. Sincerely, Ms. Holmes.
Next is from Nubia Flores Sedania. I'd like to submit the following for public comment for tonight's board meeting. My name is Nubia Flores Sedano. My son goes to Emerson Parkside Academy. My public comment is regarding agenda item number 25. I'm writing to ask you that as you move forward in adopting the new budget, that you please do so mindfully and with intention. Please give time for community input and please draft a budget that reflects the values that we are striving for. Black Lives Matter. Black children with disabilities matter. Please adopt a budget that focuses more on services that can help Black students and other children of color, like more funding for our school psychologist and parent education. Now more than ever, our school sites need more consistent, qualified school psychologists and teachers trained in restorative justice programs and better methods in attending to our children when they are in distress. The first call should not be to a public safety officer. We need staff that treat our children with compassion, dignity, and respect. Data from the U.S. Department of Education Civil Rights data collection illustrate the glaring discipline disparities occurring at the intersection of race, disability, and gender. Being a student of color with disabilities increases the risk of being suspended even more, and researchers at the Center for Civil Rights Remedies at UCLA Civil Rights Project analyzed data and concluded that out-of-school suspensions for special education students who have historically have experienced exclusionary discipline at disproportionate rates are more likely to drop out. There are so many studies that show that students who receive a suspension or expulsion are not only more likely to drop out, but they are also more likely to be retained in the same grade and enter the juvenile justice system. I ask that you please face this head on. Show us the numbers of suspension rates, assess the needs which are so evident, and fund appropriately. No mother should fear sending her child to school out of fear of discipline or because they have been exhausted by the system and process of advocating for their child's needs because of their disability or behavioral needs. This is long overdue, and I stand next to my fellow parents and say, Black Lives Matter. Next is from Jennifer Reyes. And this is a public comment regarding agenda item number 25, adoption of district's budget for the board meeting tonight, and my support of Black students. District budgets are a reflection of its values, and I applaud the board for the action taken today to champion Black Lives Matter. Long Beach's demands in the budget before it goes up for a vote. I support demands to reinvest in Black students, to close the opportunity gap in all content areas, the hiring of more Black teachers, and mandatory transformative justice programs in lieu of suspensions. All of these demands align with the spirit of the social movement recently transcending around the globe, demanding an end to racist police violence and institutional discrimination. I implore the board to be on the right side of history by heeding the calls and taking urgent action. Sincerely. Next is from Shannon Cabrera. Dear LBUSD board, we are parents of 2 students in LBUSD. Our boys have been fortunate to attend Prisk since kindergarten, and my oldest son will be attending Stanford in the fall. We love LBUSD and appreciate all that each of you do for our LBUSD students. However, we do have some concerns about the budget. Please see our comments below in regards to item number 25 for today's board meeting. With severe cuts to all California schools and districts in the upcoming school year, it is critical that we keep our focus on equity for the students that are disadvantaged due to their socioeconomic status, language barriers, and systemic racism. Now is the time for students and parents of all races and backgrounds to unite and for LBUSD reinvest in disadvantaged children and close the achievement and opportunity gaps. We need to educate our students and families on white advantage and systemic racism. Silence is compliance, and now is the time for change. We need to incorporate restorative or transformative justice programs over suspensions and retrain staff to have this mindset. It is critical that our city reinvest in our schools. Schools bring change and opportunity. Thank you in advance for hearing us and uniting with us in the systemic changes we all must spearhead at this critical time in history. Next is Aaron Foley. And Aaron is from zip code 90813. This is a public comment regarding agenda number 25, the district's budget. As the daughter of 2 public school teachers, I understand the need for safety in our schools. That is why I write today to urge you to end your contract with LBPD. Having them there is not safe. Police presence in our schools has turned out to be a terrorizing aspect for children of color, especially our Black students. It is not only ineffective, it is harmful and part of a greater public health issue. I ask you to also take the initiative to provide a transparent and clear process for children to report racism in our schools and to be respectfully involved in the process of transforming our schools for the better. Help them to help the school transform into a nurturing, anti-racism zone so all children can focus on their studies without fear or discrimination. The LBUSD must focus their budget on active anti-racism work and do their best to make up for lost time. Our whole nation needs trauma-informed social justice training, including, if not especially, the teachers in schools who are beyond influential on the lives of the children in their care. Much of the issues we have today stem from the miseducation our children are receiving about the history of our nation and the domino effects of racism, classism, and gender inequality. On top of that is the plague of the school to prison pipeline for Black and Brown students. Respectfully, I urge you to become a productive and thoughtful part of the conversation and be on the right side of history by listening to the demands of Black Lives Matter, both locally and nationwide, and then move swiftly forward in their honor. The tipping point is here. We must do better now. Thank you. Next is from Leanna Noble. Dear Board, I am writing as an LB taxpayer and voter, grandmother and great-grandmother, and neighborhood activist to ask you to vote in support of Black children and families. Hashtag BLM Long Beach has been working with students and their families and developed a great list of immediate actions that need to be funded in the district budget. I urge you to adopt these actions immediately. Next is from Kimberly Walters. Hello, I am a parent of 2 children in LBUSD, and I am writing about the budget adoption. We need to make some very important changes at LBUSD and end the racial disparities in the city. 1, we need to end the contract between LBPD and LBUSD. Cops have no place in our schools. We must end the school to prison pipeline. 2, we need to specifically hire more Black and Latinx teachers so that our teacher demographics match our population demographics. 3, we need to invest more money in ending the achievement gap between Black and white children. This needs to be a serious focus of our budget, doing whatever is necessary to raise Black children to the level of education that white children have. As a parent and a voter, I urge you to act now to do your part to solve the racial problems in this district, this city, and this nation. Kind regards. Next is Molly Bennett. Hello, my family is 4th generation LB and LBUSD. I am the parent of 2 children who have gone on or are going all the way through LBUSD. One is a Poly High graduate and one is just starting there in the fall. I have previously worked as a teacher in LBUSD schools. It is time for our city to face the issue of racial justice head on. It is in the best interest of each and every Long Beach resident that we improve educational outcomes for every student, and we must now focus on Black students to ensure they are afforded the same benefits and support that white children enjoy. I would like to submit this comment for the board meeting tonight. Molly is from zip code 90807 and commenting on district's budget. These should be top priorities for our school district. 1, LBUSD must reinvest in Black children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math. 2, utilize Black Lives Matter in school curriculum. There is a full curriculum for K-12. 3, hire more Black teachers. 4, end suspensions and replace with mandatory restorative or transformative justice programs. 5, recognize that all Black lives matter and immediately address charges of racism within our schools. 6, end the relationship with LBUSD and the practice of police officers in schools. Thank you for your consideration. Next is Valerie Macy Hurley. To whom it may concern. My zip code is 90807. I'm commenting on agenda item number 25, the district's budget. Although LBUSD is ahead of many other school districts with regards to its record for lessening the achievement gap between people of color and white students, I believe there is more our district can do. LBUSD can reinvest in Black children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math. Include Black Lives Matter into our school curriculum. There is already a full curriculum for K-12 available that the district can refer to. LBUSD must hire more Black teachers. Over 85% of the district teachers are white. LBUSD must demand an end to suspensions and mandatory restorative or transformative justice programs. Parent of 3 LBUSD students. Next is Tonya Reyes Uranga. I am commenting on the budget item listed on agenda item number 25. LBUSD is focused on students as it should be. In this era of unrest, with action focused on Black lives, then LBUSD should focus on Black students. When Black lives don't matter, then the results are fatal or debilitating, especially if the people to whom Black lives don't matter wear a public safety uniform, work in highest level of government, and have severe economic impacts if they work in schools, a workplace, or a corporate boardroom. With that in mind, I offer the following in support of our Black students and all our students. Direct dollars to provide parents with effective and detailed budget presentations in the parents' language of choice to get timely and relevant inputs on the budgets. Direct dollars to increase the number of schools participating in restorative justice and transformative justice programs now. Direct dollars to narrow the achievement gap for Black students in the areas of math and English language achievement with aggressive goals to narrow that gap so as not to lose another generation of students. Direct dollars to decrease the number of Black males who are labeled as emotionally disabled and the number that are transferred out of the systems and into restrictive environments. Direct dollars to significantly decrease expulsions and suspensions for Black youth presently being expelled and suspended at numbers disproportionate for their enrollment, a major issue in Area 2. Direct dollars to provide and expand implicit bias training for all teachers and support staff, including part-time recreation aides. Direct dollars to identify microaggressions on display by full and part-time staff and teachers and hold them accountable. LBUSD needs to put their money where its priorities are. The budget will be revisited and revised before September. I ask once again that you please be transparent and provide meaningful outreach opportunities before a final budget is passed. I am commenting on an item not listed on the agenda. The city of Long Beach recently passed a framework for reconciliation in Long Beach. Apparently because that should be part of the. Okay.
Yes, time is up, sorry.
Okay. Next is Denise Flores.
No,
I'm the parent of 3 LBUSD students and am commenting on agenda item number 25, adoption of district's budget. I have seen firsthand the gaps and opportunities that exist or are non-existent from school to school within the same district. My children are in a district in which we should be attending Mann Elementary. However, by the luck of the draw, we were able to attend Fremont Elementary. Both are a half-mile from our house. However, the programs available and services are like night and day. As a parent and educator, I understand the importance of having an equal opportunity for all students. Serving a low-income area in education, I have seen the direct impact on the students in which they do not have the same opportunities as others. I would like to see several changes within the system. 1, LBUSD reinvest in Black children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math. 2, Black Lives Matter in school curriculum. I have seen the impact that can occur when we understand one another on a deeper and more meaningful level. There is already a full curriculum for K-12. 3, LBUSD hire more Black teachers. Over 85% of the district teachers are white. 4, I would like to see an end to suspensions and mandatory restorative or transformative justice programs. 5, opportunities and access to extracurricular activities such as dance, music, art for all schools. I would also like to see science labs in every school in LBUSD.
Jody, we are at our time limit.
Time is up.
Thank you.
All- Mhm.
Thank you. I want to thank
Next, we have
No, no,
Juliette
we're trying-
Flores,
Letitia.
to
No,
whom it
Let-
may concern. We
Letitia,
demand that LBUSD reinvest in Black
Letitia.
children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math. We demand Black Lives Matter in school
Letitia.
curriculum. There is already a full curriculum for K through 12. We demand LBUSD hire more Black teachers. Over 85% of the district teachers are white. We need restorative justice, not suspensions. It's time we make necessary changes.
Letitia, time is up for this. There's no more
This is
comments.
from Shannon
here.
McCabe. I am the teacher at Jefferson Leadership Academies, and I would like to submit this comment for tonight's board meeting. If access and equity is the intention of all means all and hashtag proud to be LBUSD, I'd like a young Black voice to be heard. At 12, Emmanuel Meredith is a spoken word genius. He wrote an extended metaphor that compares harakiri, a Japanese form of ritual suicide by disembowelment, to the impact of the human footprint on Earth for the Aquarium of the Pacific's 2020 Urban Ocean Poetry Contest. Emmanuel is one of Jefferson's 3 winning poets in the contest. Mr. Superintendent, I was just told we've reached the 1 hour limit.
Yeah,
Correct.
Should I continue or
No,
do I
no.
stop?
Stop.
Letitia, thank you. Jody, thank you very much. And for all the parents and community folks who submitted comments, we want to thank you. And for those who we did not get a chance to read your comments, they will be available to us on file. So, but thank you all, one and all, for those comments. Very substantive and well thought out comments about your thoughts about what our school should be, our district should be doing, and we appreciate it.
Miss Dr. Williams, just
Yeah.
one quick question. Do we know how many comments were not read? How many were left? Just so that we know.
We can get that information.
Okay,
If we can pick that up in a few minutes.
okay.
If it's
Perfect.
okay, so we can
Thank
move
you.
the agenda.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right. And Letitia, can you hear me? Yeah, if we could get the numbers of comments that were not read, if we can have that a little later. We can't hear you, Letitia. You're muted.
Okay, we had about 20 comments left that we didn't get to.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
We are now at staff report, school closure, summer programming and reopening of schools, information item, Dr. Baker.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. At the June 2nd board meeting, you as a board requested some information about school closure, about summer programming, and our efforts to prepare to reopen school. So tonight you're going to have an opportunity to hear from Dr. Brown and Dr. Kale, and they'll highlight the home learning opportunity survey data from our parents and stakeholders. You're going to have an opportunity to hear about the resources for student well-being that we are going to deploy for summer, and hear about some of our initial efforts to continue to engage stakeholders in the planning for reopening of schools. And so it's my pleasure to turn it over to Dr. Brown. Good evening. Good evening. Nice to be with you this evening, and thank you so much for the opportunity. As Dr. Baker shared, tonight is a response and a sharing. This presentation, it will be both this evening, and the response is specific to the needs and requests of the community regarding summer opportunities. The sharing is around the student, parent, and staff data, and Dr. Kale will be giving a snapshot of what that data looks like and how it will inform the decisions that we've made, not only for summer, but as we move into the fall. So with that, our purpose this evening will be to bring forward the information that we have about summer learning opportunities and to share with you how we've prepared to be able to to provide support to as many as 11,000 students during the summer, as well as to provide some emotional support resources. And again, that comes from a expressed need and input from our community to provide some well-being supports for students. We'll also be sharing data about the home learning opportunities survey that's been provided and completed by many in our community, both students, parents, and staff. And then finally, we'll go into some next steps about our summer learning opportunities. So a timeline of events, and I'm actually going to start screen sharing here so that you can see what I'm looking at. So go back with me to March 13th, which was just 13 weeks ago, but seems like a short lifetime ago. That was the day that we made the decision to close schools. And in sharing that date, I wanted to highlight for you that on March 12th at about 5 o'clock, we didn't think we were going to be closing schools. But by the morning of March 13th, the hard decision had been made that we were closing schools. And that seems important to recount as we look at this timeline of events that have occurred, because one of the things that's been incumbent upon us in the last months is to be very nimble, thoughtful but nimble in our decision making, and recognizing that a number of the decisions that we have had to make in these last weeks, these last months, have required us to move very swiftly and with very changing information. And so what you're looking at is kind of a timeline chronology of what we've done since that time. We had the closure on March 13th. Then we recognized that we needed to take a pause, and the pause was to digest what was happening and to do some intense planning around what was going to happen next. Next came our first round of home learning options, which continued for several weeks and brought us to the culmination of spring break, at which point we rolled out a new wave of home learning options with some additional expectations attached. Phase 4 for us was to return office and management staff who had been previously working from home or working from home in some capacity to return with us on May 26th and to be ready to take us through phase 5, which has been the process of closing school and doing all of the routines and procedures that need to happen for us to close this year and move into the next. So with that, we're preparing to begin our round of summer learning opportunities, which will happen in the window of June 22nd to July 24th. And I'll share with you momentarily what some of those opportunities will be. We continue to work toward the reopening of school, and we continue to follow the planned school opening on September 1st. We are actively working, and you'll see if you look down below, we are actively working backwards from that day with a set of advisory committees, task forces, and a whole lot of heavy lifting around the opportunities that will be available and the instructional model that we'll be moving forward with as we look towards opening school. So the summer learning opportunities, again, I think it's important to highlight, and you're going to be hearing a large portion of the data that we have available in just a moment by Dr. Kale, but I think it's really important to highlight that the summer learning opportunities that we're providing are informed by data and by need. So the need for intervention and the expressed focus of our community to offer something for students who have either had some vulnerabilities or some exceptional needs in what is important for their educational program, but also to provide something that allows for us to address the gap in instruction that's taken place over the last weeks. And so with those opportunities, and I'm just going to highlight what they are, and then for the board members, what I will share is that we can share this presentation with you. There's a document that's linked to this that goes into more detail about what the options specifically will be at each level. But for the sake of time this evening and for the interest of being able to share the data that I think will be of interest to you, I just want to highlight that at pre-K, we'll be providing our extended school year opportunities for students with special needs. We'll be doing that at every level, but at elementary specifically, we will have both an English language arts and a math intervention available for students. At middle school level, the focus will be primarily on math and those who have English language development needs. And at high school, the focus will be around credit recovery and providing opportunities for students who need to make up credits. So with that, again, we'll share this with you, and there's a matrix that you can review that gives some more specific detail. But the opportunities that we are having available are happening as a result of both the needs that we know and the needs that have been expressed to us in the last weeks. Another need that's been expressed to us is the need to have some ongoing emotional supports to address the well-being of students. And so we're appreciative of the input that we've received. We're also appreciative for the opportunity to be able to continue to have the family resources available and working during the summer months. Those will be open at our 4 of our comprehensive high school campuses, Poly, Cabrillo, Jordan, and Milliken. And they will be providing support services between the hours of 8 and 1 and through the time frame of summer school. And they'll be continuing to do the counseling, providing community referrals or referrals as needed, and several different training opportunities. And this is just a snapshot this evening. We have some prepared flyers that are also being sent out, and we'll be tapping our wonderful social media opportunities to communicate how our community will know that they can access these services. But we're grateful for the opportunity to provide them. And with that, I'm going to ask Dr. Christy Kale, who's our Assistant Superintendent of Research, to come up. Her team has done a wonderful job and a very heavy lift in assimilating all of the data that we've received. She's going to be giving you a snapshot of some information from that data that we are using to inform both the work we're doing this summer and the work that we will do as we go forward into fall.
All right. Good evening. I'm excited to be here to tell you about the data. Back in March, as Dr. Brown mentioned, we made a quick adjustment to home learning. We didn't have any time to plan a quality program. And here we are now with a lot of feedback from the community. So I come with hot off the press data regarding our students, parents, and teachers. The teacher survey closed as of last Friday, so this is really hot off the press. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about okay, sorry about that. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about who took the survey. So if you notice there, we've showed you that it was students in grades 6 through 11. We let the seniors just work on their senior exit survey instead. And so of the students, we heard from 46% of them. And then as far as parents, that was parents for students in grades TK through 12. We heard from 25% of our parents. Now that might sound like a low response rate, but actually it's a pretty good one, especially in comparison to our core survey data. We get about 20 to 21% generally on that survey. So it's a fairly healthy parent response to our survey. You can see from the data slide in front of you that all 5 of our local districts in our community were represented on the survey. And then as far as the teacher survey, you can see 87% of teachers have taken it. So there's a lot of themes that emerged across the groups. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we saw some variations, a little bit by grade level and then also by ethnicity. So I'll take you through that as well. All right, so starting first with the student survey highlights, just as a reminder, this is students in grades 6 through 11, and probably our more engaged students are the ones who took the survey, so keeping that in mind. All right, what you see here is we were really concerned about students who might be working at home all by themselves, not have any adult supervision to help them out. So the question we asked was, how often did you have an adult at home who helps you complete assignments or keeps you on track? And what we found is that 1 out of 4 students reported little to no adult supervision. And on our teacher survey, teachers reported that as high as 1 out of 3. So definitely we had students, especially at the secondary level, reporting that they did not have any adult supervision at home. We also were a little bit concerned about social isolation, hearing that kids felt isolated from their teachers and peers. So when we looked at, we asked them a couple of questions. So how often did they participate in live learning with their teacher? And 50% of students said daily or frequently. When we asked them how often they were able to talk to classmates, that number drops down to 36%. When we look at that 40% number, about almost never or once in a while, we find that 1 out of 5 students almost never talked to classmates during school closure. Next, we asked them a series of questions, and these questions had to do with a variety of challenges that students might face at home during this closure. And this is the percent of students who reported that almost all the time or frequently they face these challenges. And what you see up there, the longest turquoise line there, is 42% of students saying they felt unmotivated. So 6,503 students struggling with motivation. We also had 33% of students, so 5,281, telling us that they were taking care of their siblings while trying to do their schoolwork at home. 1 in 3 reported no quiet place to work, and then others struggled with internet issues, sharing a computer, or taking care of sick family members. And while only 5% told us that they were working in a job outside of the home, that really boiled down to 820 students. And if you think about it this way, it's an entire middle school worth of students going to school each day while trying to complete their own, or going to work each day, excuse me, while trying to complete their schooling. So the second thing we wanted to look at is, were there any variations in survey responses among groups of students? And so we looked at students who gave us the largest percent of saying that something was a challenge versus the group that told us it was the lowest percent of a challenge for them. So what we see here is, we see the groups down the left-hand side, and across the top, the challenges were sharing a computer, quiet place to work, caring for siblings, or feeling unmotivated. And so I'll just give you a second to take a look at that and kind of see where our groups fared out in those areas. But essentially, the larger message here is that certainly not everything was equal at home for all of our student groups. And I think this goes back to a lot of the tough conversations that you as a board had around tough decisions around grading, and some of the things that you were concerned about definitely are being fleshed out in our data. And then finally, in talking about student survey data, I'd just like to talk about overall satisfaction. So we see here that 26%, or 1 out of 4, were quite or extremely satisfied with their home learning experience, and then 43% slightly or not at all. We found that the highest rate of satisfaction was with our 6th grade students. They were at 34%, and then that number drops each year until you get to 11th grade, where they were 16% likely to agree with that statement. So in thinking about the parent survey highlights, this is again for parents and students in grades TK through 12. And again, probably our more engaged parents took the survey. So the first question about how satisfied were you overall? What you can notice there right away is that the top line shows 27% reported extremely or quite satisfied, and that's in comparison to 26% of students. So as I mentioned before, we see a lot of the same responses across students, parents, and teachers. So most satisfied were parents of students in grades 3 through 5, and least satisfied in grades 9 through 12. All right. So one of the questions we were asking is what leads to greater satisfaction for a parent? What would make them more likely to say that they were satisfied with online learning? So when we separate into the two groups, on the left-hand side, you see parents with low satisfaction ratings, and then on the right-hand side, parents who were highly satisfied. And what you see is that parents who were highly satisfied reported greater frequency of live learning. So that's 77% versus 40%. They also reported that their child talked to their classmates at a 38% versus 14% for parents with low satisfaction. I'm going to jump down to the last bar. 94% of them said their child was able to complete assignments versus 58% of parents with low satisfaction. So jumping up to that middle one, you do see a difference there in how challenging assignments were. And what we found in the comments is that challenging from an educator's perspective is not always the same interpretation as parents and students. So we heard a lot about frustration. So challenging seems to be equated with frustration. So being unable to complete assignments because you don't understand it or don't know what to do about it we would think would end in less satisfaction. And then finally at the bottom, there is a question there that says, what did your child do most often in live sessions? And you can see highly satisfied parents, or most likely 38% to say they learned new things. And that's in comparison to just 16% of parents with low rates of satisfaction. Those parents were more likely to say that students spent time reviewing previous learning or attending teacher office hours. All right, so thinking about where we're going to go next, we did ask parents about a question. These were 3 separate questions about how interested were they in a particular model for next year. So how interested are you in all online learning for next year? And you can see there 27% said they were extremely or quite interested in all online learning for next year. The same rate as the rate of satisfaction, interestingly enough. That number jumps to 36% when parents are asked about a hybrid model, so part online learning and part face-to-face, and then jumps to 59% for an all at school model. So, and that's the highest rating. I do want to point out though that 25% of parents are either slightly or not at all interested in an all at school model. So while we have the greatest number wanting all to come back, we do have a number, 1 out of 4 saying they're not really interested in coming back 100% of the time. Again, some interesting data there. And then what is your primary reason for preferring all online learning? And that's not on my computer, so. 49% of parents said they would choose that for health and safety reasons, which is something we expected. But we also discovered that about 7% have reasons that go beyond the COVID-19 crisis. So it's a good match for their learning style, 4%, or to allow their child to get ahead, 3%. So again, some reasons beyond health and safety for continued online learning. And then when asked about the fairest grading option, if students had to come back and do at-home learning. So in other words, if we had to go back to where we were when we ended this school year, what would be the fairest thing to do? So 3 out of 4 parents want letter grades. Of the parents who want letter grades, 1 out of 3 want no grade of F. So want a grade of A, B, C, or D. So again, some interesting data that is helpful for our planning. And then finally, when we asked questions about how concerned they are about their child's learning, 60% were quite or extremely concerned, and hence the summer learning programs that we hope will address some of that feedback. And then 47% reported that they were quite or extremely concerned about their child's emotional well-being. We heard things about missing their teachers, missing their friends, losing their personal motivation, facing fears in the community, and of course now all that they're facing socially and emotionally since they've even filled out the survey. So we know that well-being resources are going to be important next steps for our students. And then just very quickly, a couple of the teacher survey highlights. Again, the teacher survey closed on Friday, so it's pretty fresh data, but this is teachers in grades TK through 12. And teachers were asked about the challenges that they faced being a distance educator. And those challenges were very similar to what students said. So what you see here is 35% of our teachers, so 906 teachers, more than a third, were caring for their own children while also simultaneously teaching. Just like students, they reported having no quiet place to work 21% of the time. They also had technical or computer issues or internet issues. And even some were feeling unmotivated, certainly not at the level of students, but again, 244 teachers struggling with their own personal motivation and then taking care of family members. Another quick highlight I'll give you is we found out that live learning was very important to parents. So we wanted to see when teachers said that they were doing frequent live teaching, what were the factors that might be at play there? And so what we found out is that teachers who said they were doing higher levels of live teaching, they were also much more comfortable with that than those who reported they weren't. That makes a lot of sense. They were also stating that students were consistently participating. So one of the things we know is that teachers really wanted their kids there to participate with them. So whether or not they're reporting it or whether or not their participation encouraged teachers to do more live learning, we won't really know. And it didn't seem, however, to impact their interest in remaining a distance educator. So whether or not we were looking at about 25% overall of teachers who do have some interest in remaining an online instructor for the future. So what else did teachers want us to know? We just wanted to give a little teacher voice to the story here. Teachers told us they were juggling their own children, fighting for workspace with a spouse, working longer, really sporadic hours, and feeling like they needed to be accessible to parents and students 24/7. Many of them talked about being up until 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning working. They want more support, or they wanted more support for their students, especially their students with special needs, their English learners, and those they just simply couldn't reach no matter how hard they tried. They talked about how hard it was to engage the youngest kids without hands-on tools, and how hard it was to maintain the attention of older students. They talk about a lot of time spent helping parents with technology, helping them learn how to check grades, communicating with them via email. There was also a physical toll on our teachers, sitting at a computer all day long, eyes, shoulders hurting, their back, uncomfortable chairs, feeling of general exhaustion. And they felt discouraged when only a handful of students would show up for those live learning sessions. But with all of that said, they also told us that they learned a great deal from this experience, and they grew a lot in their understanding of technology. So I'm going to round this out with some implications for planning. All of the groups reported benefits. Students learned about time management, everybody learned more about technology, and parents talked about kids becoming more independent. Some parents want all online experience for the fall for safety reasons, and some teachers are interested in continuing with that. So that's something for us to think about. All groups were frustrated by having to navigate multiple online platforms, and they expressed concerns about abilities to effectively communicate with each other. There were varied teacher expectations, and students reported too much busy work. So something else for us to think about in our planning. Students and parents want more human interaction, live learning, and opportunities for students to interact with their peers, not just academically, but also socially. Teachers want more training and better equipment, and parents and teachers want social, emotional learning support, tutoring help, and letter grades. So I know I just gave you a lot of information, and that was just the highlights. We've broken down the data set, and we have more complete data, which we can share at a later time. But I'm going to turn things over now to Dr. Baker, who's going to talk a little bit more about next steps. I can.
So before we close, we just wanted to share a few things in terms of next steps and closing thoughts on summer learning and student support. The data has been used to inform next steps, and the opportunity to reopen the Family Resource Centers came both from the survey data, but also from the Board of Education's recommendation. All of this data has begun to be shared with our advisory committees that are working with level office and other central office staff on the reopening of school plans. And then lastly, two important features that connect to much of the conversation tonight around budget. So you have heard about the Home Learning Opportunities Survey. In addition to the survey that Dr. Kale shared, we deployed an additional survey that was crafted with our partners from public advocates, from the Children's Defense Fund, from Californians for Justice. Dr. Salazar, our Director of Organizational Equity and Engagement, along with Mr. Tagorda from the Equity and Access Office, worked with partner groups to craft a set of questions that would help us to identify additional needs and additional perspective from the lived experiences of our families. That data will be used to determine not just summer opportunities, but will help us to start to think about the reopening of school and the needs of our families. In addition, we'll have summer data from the use of FRCs that will help us to know what students are in need of and what families are reaching out for, that we can use even to provide resources before schools open. And then lastly, this data will lead us right in, the survey data as well as other information will lead us into an initial meeting of our 2020 Budget Advisory Committee that will include staff, students, and community stakeholders. Then lastly, next steps around the reopening of schools, just to highlight a few things that will be happening this summer. Most of you know that we are now in the process of holding reopening advisory committees, an elementary, a middle, and a high school advisory committee that has stakeholders from staff, parents, labor partners, and students providing inputs around the plans to reopen schools. Those meetings will continue through July and August as needed. And they're an opportunity for input, for discussion, and for perspective sharing. Also in summer, there will be the formation of an equity curriculum advisory committee that will include staff, students, and community stakeholders. And then lastly, you heard me speak in a previous board meeting about Dr. Simon's task of preparing to launch a district-wide social emotional learning strategy. Considerable effort will be put into that in summer. So lots to come while things are happening. Well, 11,000 students are participating in summer learning opportunities and being provided social emotional supports. A lot of work also taking place to build prioritization for how we will prepare to reopen schools and how we will reopen schools. We thank you for the opportunity. If there are questions from the board, we'll entertain questions at this time.
Dr. Baker and Dr. Brown, thank you. And Christy, Kale, thank you for the comprehensive report. I have sort of three things on my mind right now, and I know it's a lot to unpack, so I won't take a deep dive, but three things that stood out for me is, you know, how much our teachers were challenged and struggled through this process, and just the remarkable job that they did to pivot. So I am curious, as we look more into the summer, what we're doing to support our teachers, right? Because of all the uncertainties still that we have in this upcoming academic year. The second thing is, and it was brought up today in our public comments, all of the indicators of structural inequity are still here with this data. I mean, just 3 data points that highlight that we have a tale of 2 cities here in Long Beach is, one, the response rate, particularly the gaps in responses from districts 4 and 5 compared to districts 1, 2, and 3. I mean, in some cases, we have a 14% difference just in response rate. Another data point that was shared is the disparity between how our white students responded versus our students of color, all right, in terms of some of the challenges that they were facing, whether that be them taking care of a sibling or them having computer and technical difficulties and access or feelings of isolation. So one question I have is, I'm wondering if we can disaggregate the data by district and by race and ethnicity so that we can be more targeted in our intervention strategies and our support strategies for students. The other is, I think I want to highlight the importance that it's going to be to have in-person interventions, particularly for our emerging bilinguals, our ELs, and our special education students. And that's, again, been one of the things that we've consistently heard from parents, just the challenges, right, to deliver online instruction for ELs and for our special education students, and the strategies that we will use to address the lost learning, but also the isolation, disconnect, and trauma that our most vulnerable students have been facing this whole time. So I think there's a lot there to unpack. Those are just kind of 3 areas that I'd like to see some just updates and concrete next steps. Because, you know, as all of you know, the summer's here and the summer will get away from us in a couple months. And then the next thing you know, it's September 1st. And we will have many of these challenges, right, and uncertainties still up in the air. So thank you for the quick turnaround on the data results.
Other questions?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate what the next steps are in terms of the committees and stakeholder input that seems to be happening on that last slide or 2. And we know that the community is really engaged in the work, especially around the equity and curriculum. We heard that. I talked to parents this week who are really engaged in that work. So if we could provide the information for how community folks can choose to be engaged or can get kind of in queue to be a stakeholder. And then if we can't have 100 people in a room per health orders, ways that the public can view and get that information, submit comments, submit recommendations in a robust way, I think would be really helpful. So if we could get some details on that. I know we're just starting to roll out some of these new programs and some of these new procedures and ways of doing things. But I'd really like to capitalize on the interest by community members and diverse community members in our Black communities so that their voices can be central to some of that work.
Other comments? Thank you, Jill, Tiffany, and Christy for that report. Looking at the adjustments we've had to make and some of the things that have to be covered just to get our students back on track, it's pretty comprehensive, and really appreciate the work that everybody's doing, just trying to stay on top of this. So thank you all very much for that information. We know we've got a lot to uncover, a lot that needs to still be done. So we're right here to help out and support it. So again, thank you. We are now at public testimony on items not listed on the agenda. Again, we have twice as many folks here who want to comment, and we need to ask this question, how much time are we going to allot for this item? We have over approximately 100 people here who want to comment.
So I'll say the same, President Williams. I would recommend that we extend public comment half an hour so that we can get as many of our over 100 community members' voices heard. We are living in extraordinary times, so I think we have to be extraordinary ourselves. And this is a reflection of us demonstrating that we're hearing our community members. We're not going to obviously get to the over 100, but my recommendation is that we extend it by half an hour.
Other?
Yeah, I agree with the half an hour. I would like to revisit the idea of potentially making the comments 2 minutes to be able to get some additional voices, since these aren't items that we can comment on or have any discussion on because they are non-agendized items, and that is by law, by the Brown Act, that maybe we consider reducing the comment time to 2 minutes so that we can get an additional number of voices heard, especially since we aren't going to be able to have any discussion on the items. That would be my suggestion.
I agree with that. I like that.
John, Diana?
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. I like the 2-minute limit so that we can hear from more of our public.
Letitia, are you okay with trying to make the adjustment in terms of the people have prepared for 3 minutes, and you're going to have to figure out how to truncate that to 2 minutes and you know, where to cut it off, and that might be the most important part, where you're cutting it off. So, you know, that's going to be a bit tricky.
Yes, as long as the superintendent lets us know when we're nearing the 2 minutes, that's fine.
Yes, we will do that.
And Mr. Superintendent, is there anyone else on staff that we can get? I mean, this is a big drain on those two that we could get just to help to read the comments.
Yes, we can send someone upstairs to help. So
Okay.
you have a volunteer. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay. Ready?
you're on.
Yes, we'll go, ready to go.
Okay, so the first one is from John McGinnis. I'm a past board member of the Board of Education. First, thank you, Chris, for enriching students' lives. Board members share a unique perspective of your commitment, intelligence, and integrity, and of your personal sacrifices serving students, teachers, administrators, and staff. You're the best superintendent I've ever known. Second, congratulations to the board for selecting the best person to assume your leadership. For years, we've watched Dr. Jill Baker work tirelessly and largely unheralded for students. Your recommendations, Jill, at the last board meeting to reduce executive office staff by $1 million demonstrated your capacity to make tough decisions. Your appointment of 2 professional educators to essential executive positions and your reassignment of 4 others by increasing some of their workloads revealed your leadership among peers. The fact that 5 of these 6 are women who represent the diversity of our community is evidence of your commitment to creating role models for students. Finally, I'd like to offer a recommendation. While the board is commended for naming the first woman superintendent in the district's 135-year history, I recommend that the board revisit Dr. Baker's compensation. Her pay will be less than the average given to superintendents of similar districts. That means that the first female superintendent in Long Beach, among the 4 largest districts in the state, will be paid less than many male superintendents in even smaller districts. In this, the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage, we still wait for institutions to affirm, not just in principle, but in pay, their commitment to gender equity. In that spirit, I recommend that Dr. Baker be paid not $1 less than the highest paid male superintendent in California. The question is not whether we can afford it. Dr. Baker's compensation is less than 1/2 of 1/10 of 1% of the district.
Time is up, Letitia.
Thank you. Next, we have Veronica Jimenez and Douglas Pace. We would like to request that the board review the policy and process of student displacements from dual immersion programs in the district. Our daughter has been displaced as well as other children from the Patrick Henry dual immersion program. This was done summarily and without any transparency. Furthermore, we were never informed that this was even a possibility. We were also never given the opportunity to speak with the administrator who made these decisions. Their contingency plan was lacking vision, compassion, and logic. For example, how does a child who is behind in English instruction suddenly catch up when they are forced into a non-DI program because of displacement? The inability for the LBUSD to be sensitive to the needs of the children they serve, especially now and especially in the DI program, is a problem that needs to be fixed. It is apparent that other families at Henry were ignorant of the possibility of student displacement as well. We have circulated a petition that illustrates this complete lack of communication of the Henry administration with the families it serves. The current policy is a detriment to the LBUSD and the families it serves. We request the opportunity to address these issues formally with the board in order to stop this unfair practice. We eagerly await your communication to our request. Next, we have Lena Hajat Carroll from the California Conference for Equality and Justice. The California Conference for Equality and Justice, CCEJ, is a nonprofit dedicated to eliminating bias, bigotry, and racism through education, conflict resolution, and advocacy. CCEJ was originally founded in 1927 as the National Conference for Christians and Jews. In 1963, NCCJ established an office in Long Beach, which evolved into the CCEJ of today. CCEJ's programs focus on transforming individuals and communities, healing conflicts, and building real unity in Southern California. For more than 30 years, we have been in proud partnership with the LBUSD through our Building Bridges for Youth and Restorative Justice at Schools program. As CCEJ's new executive director, I want to share how CCEJ is responding not only to the needs of our community related to COVID, but also for dialogue about the recent high-profile killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. In March, we pivoted our youth education and teacher training work online and created more than 20 online workshops and trainings on restorative practices, trauma sensitivity, and conflict mediation. More than 60 youth have participated in our free online conscious classroom anti-bias workshops over the past 2 months, and we plan to offer more this summer. We currently interview applicants for our Summer Youth Learning Institute, which will train youth leaders from high schools to facilitate dialogue with peers at our Building Bridges camps and through Building Bridges clubs at schools in the Long Beach Unified School District. Just in the past week, we have hosted online dialogues for more than 150 people, inviting people from all different racial backgrounds to a safe place where they can.
Time is up.
Okay. Next, we have Lan Nguyen. My name is Lan Nguyen, and I teach at Long Beach Poly as part of the dual enrollment program with CSULB. I understand that the board will be discussing and voting on the budget on Monday. My students have expressed a desire to share their concerns about the budget and share their experiences as students. They would like to share their testimonies via video or phone rather than email, and I agree with them that if the board is making decisions that will impact these students' lives, it is only fair that the board members see the students' faces and hear the pain in their voices as they share their testimonies. Would it be possible to arrange a video or phone-in option for students, parents, and community members to deliver public comment for Monday's board meeting? In the past, my students have expressed frustration at the school board meeting inaccessibility towards students. The location is far from Long Beach Poly, where they mostly reside near, and the time is challenging for parents to attend due to work schedules. Most students rely on parents for rides. Hosting a public comment period via video chat or phone conference would be a wonderful way to allow low-income students of color to engage with the school board process and practice their civic engagement. The budget will impact these students' daily lives. They should be allowed to weigh in via a more significant avenue than an email comment. Thank you for your consideration. This is Mariela Salgado. Hello, LBUSD staff. I've participated in many public comments and in support of others to let students, parents, and community members virtually participate in school board meetings by setting up a system that allows for live comment or phone comment. Why? It is critical for us to be able to read our own public comments using our voices, in our words, and in our primary languages to more meaningfully participate in school board meetings. It is much more engaging for the public to have some interaction with the school board through public comment, ideally by doing live comments or at least by phone if the technology can't be set up in time. In the short term, we'd like to explore these possibilities to allow for more public engagement so that the system can remain in place during this time of virtual engagement due to COVID-19. Developing this infrastructure at LBUSD at this time will permit a more engaging system to be used in future stakeholder meetings that are critical to the district's community engagement process. In service, Mariela. This one I'm going to read in Spanish and then I've had it translated. Hi Leticia, soy Marta Cota. La semana pasada fue mi primera vez participando virtualmente en la reunión del board. Una de las cosas que me gusta es que más padres desde sus casas pueden participar, ya que muchas veces no tienen transportación y regularmente las reuniones son por la tarde cuando los niños ya están en casa y es difícil llevarlo a las reuniones. Algo que me gustaría es que nuestros comentarios públicos los podamos leer personalmente, con la interpretación que siempre hemos tenido por parte de ustedes. Tal vez si desarrollaran una infraestructura avanzada, ya que con esto de la pandemia, creo que ahora sí tenemos que estar al día con la nueva tecnología y no perder el entusiasmo y deseo de los padres de seguir participando y aumentar el involucramiento en las reuniones y eventos escolares, que no sabemos cuándo las tendremos. Agradezco de antemano, pase este mensaje a nuestro superintendente y a los miembros del board para que consideren este punto. Gracias, Marta Cota. Hi, this is Martha Cota. Last week was my first time participating virtually in the board meeting. One of the things that I like is that more parents can participate from their homes, since many times they don't have transportation and the meetings are regularly in the afternoon when the children are already home and it is difficult to take them to the meetings. One thing I would like is to be able to read our public comments personally with the interpretation that we have always had from you. Maybe if you would develop an advanced infrastructure, since with this pandemic, I think that now we have to keep up with the new technology and not lose the parents' enthusiasm and desire to continue to participate and increase their involvement in meetings and at school events, which we do not know when we will have. I thank you in advance for passing this message on to your superintendent and to the board members for their consideration. Thank you.
Okay, to give Letitia a break. This is from Summer Clancy. For the first time in my tenure at LBUSD, those at Hughes Way seem to have lost the pulse of those at school, teachers, and students. For us, it has been a year of tremendous loss. It is not a time to celebrate promotions. It is not a time to move principals and reduce the teaching force. The district has injudiciously decided to raise the salary for the superintendent. District funds would be better spent hiring, not firing teachers. This will allow us to reduce class size for the 2020-2021 school year, so we may have a chance of making it through the entire year at school, which is a better learning environment for our students. Please reconsider how funds are being allocated for the 2020-2021 school year. Next is from Virginia Torres. My name is Virginia Torres, retired teacher of LBUSD. These are troubled and uncertain times as we experience a destructive worldwide pandemic, and in California, COVID-19 cases are increasing. In addition, school districts are facing devastating budget cuts in local and state funding, and we face many questions regarding federal funding. Our dedicated teachers, educators, nurses, and support staff without hesitation stepped up and transitioned to virtual classrooms. No one works harder than all our LBUSD employees. Long Beach teachers have always held a respectful and good working relationship with all district administration. As a large urban school district, every employee of LBUSD can take pride for the work we do. We all want the best and highest quality education for all the students of Long Beach. Dr. Baker, you are a good leader. Now is the time to be gracious and accept the current salary of the superintendent position. This would be a great example of true leadership. This also would send an encouraging message to all employees that keep up the good work. That is the Long Beach way. Next is from Debbie Bober. Dear LBUSD Board of Education, as a veteran teacher of over 26 years in LBUSD, I would like to speak on behalf of hundreds of teachers who are very, very, very happy the last day of the 2019-20 school year has come and gone. It has been a stormy year for us all, but no matter what the world has brought, LBUSD has always remained America's best urban school system. Yes, because of our amazing teachers. Yes, because of our amazing professional development, but most importantly, because of our leadership that puts children first above all else. It seems that in our lowest times, the LBUSD community has always found a way to work together and support one another. And this time it should be no different. That is why I am writing this letter to commend Dr. Jill Baker, our newly appointed superintendent of schools. Dr. Jill Baker has been a part of the LBUSD family for many years and has served as a teacher, a principal, and in district leadership. Most recently, I have grown to admire her even more in the last 13 weeks, as she has led the insurmountable task of establishing home learning amidst emergency campus shutdowns. Her grace under pressure and her thoughtful, caring approach in this unprecedented crisis has given me hope as a classroom teacher that anything is possible when we work together. And now, as we are challenged with opening school for fall with more questions than answers, I am glad that our district is in the hands of Dr. Jill Baker. I am confident that she will be able to lead us through this crisis. Let's show her the respect and trust she has earned as our new superintendent of schools. Let's support her and build her up instead of tearing down the person who has proven herself to be the best leader for the future of our great district. I don't expect it to be easy for her. That's why she needs our support. Thank you, Dr. Baker, for taking on this role as our leader, our children's advocate, our superintendent. The next is from Jill Reardon. I am writing the school board to express concerns over several items suggested in this proposition. The points included spread to suggest special protection of students based on race. It also suggests that aggressive actions should not be punishable by suspensions. These are minors, and all students, regardless of race, should have equal protection. Suspension continue to be applied for all forms of bullying with zero tolerance approach. The victims of bullying, especially where action has not been swiftly taken, suffer emotionally severe emotional distress and suicidal ideations. Do we care about the impact here for all students? I would like to see the current curriculum against the proposed additional studies, as well as time spent learning about the Constitution and Bill of Rights. I would like my children to learn about history, equality, and about their country in a positive framework. All parents should have a voice here as well to review this proposal. Next is from Lisa Hancock. Hello, I live in Long Beach and I fully support the framework for reconciliation created to address systemic racism and advance equity for all residents. It is clear that something needs to be done, and I believe that this is the first step towards a long process for change.
All right, next is Joseph Letka. My name is Joseph Letka and I'm a lifelong Long Beach resident. I was appalled to find that the board gave the position of superintendent to someone who is simultaneously lacking experience at the job and demanding a 25% raise over the 18-year experienced administrator they replaced. Especially during these times where education is being cut in our state budget, while teachers are being expected to provide even more personal supplies, including physical space and telecommunications, while economic uncertainty is universal, this action to give a massive raise to the elite ranks is exactly what brings people to awareness and begins the call for change. Be aware that I and many others feel sold out by this board's decision on superintendent, and we are watching diligently to see who is willing to continue hurting our kids and teachers by funneling the funding to the top. Allow Jill to drop her salary to the previous employee's rate, and if she doesn't, we'll know her heart is with money, not children, and will demand replacement. We will know our focus will be replacing the leadership in whole if nothing happens. The destruction of our schools and teachers has gone on too long. We need improvements in classrooms, not massive raises for new administrators. Where is your head at? Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing your action in the future. Next is Michaela Hoover. Dear LBUSD School Board, my name is Michaela, and I'm a former LBUSD student, Poly class of 2014. While in school, I took part in Poly's great traditions in music and track and field and graduated from the PACE program. Today, I'm a college graduate and a manager of a small business in the Belmont Shore area. I volunteer with Everyone In, an organization dedicated to eradicating homelessness in Long Beach. I'm writing and request that Long Beach end its contract with LBPD, divert resources away from school peace officers, and invest in counselors and youth programs. There's no reason for the police to have a presence on school campuses. It is known that police are more likely to target and behave violently towards Black folks, and the same applies to Black students. Schools are supposed to be safe spaces for students, but policies allowing police presence and defunding mental health services shows that LBUSD has little to no interest in protecting their students. Student testimonies have shown that in February, after a whistleblower was forcibly removed from Poly campus, a Long Beach police officer pulled a gun on a student out on Jackrabbit Lane. They have also said that Black students are more likely to be searched for drugs than non-Black students. A teacher called a student the N-word and has not yet been fired. It is crucial that the LBUSD board take a stand against racism and police violence on their school campuses and redirect resources towards student learning. My younger brother graduated from Long Beach Poly this past Thursday. The drive-in ceremony was a treat. I know he truly appreciated what the school was able to pull together for its seniors during this uncertain time. But the ceremony was bittersweet, knowing that beneath the facade, the school had done so little to protect students from racism and is uninterested in taking care of their mental health. A counselor for every 1,000 students is not enough. The closet next to the choir room is not enough. You allowed students to be pulled out of classes.
Time is up.
The
Thank
police
you.
and did not address their needs when you were, was that time?
Yes.
Yes.
This one is from Katie Rowe. Dear Dr. Williams, Dr. Benitez, Ms. Kerr, Ms. Craighead, and Mr. Meyer, I am writing to express my strong disapproval of the proposed renaming of Wilson High School. As a fifth-generation Long Beach resident and third-generation proud Wilson graduate, I implore you to keep our school named Wilson. 94 years of graduating classes have Wilson High School on their diplomas, and our name is known nationwide as having a reputation for excellence both in the classroom and in athletics. The group represents every race, creed, gender, and belief, and we all wear the Wilson W with pride. My grandmother was a 1933 earthquake class graduate. Her love of Wilson was deep, and she even attended her 60-year reunion. Changing the name does not change history. The name does not reflect a different era in history. However, throwing the name out is throwing the baby with the bathwater. Wilson fought and helped pass the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. In the words of Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, history is not there for you to like or dislike. It is there for you to learn from. The next one is from Diane Jacobus. As a 1953 graduate of Woodrow Wilson High School, I am strongly requesting the name of this fine institution not be changed. The name should remain unchanged as a reminder to the countless thousands upon thousands of students, including 3 of mine, who went on to graduate school and are professional individuals today. And yes, I am a proud mom. By changing the name, you have again let a single individual win. Once again, honoring the bad apple and ignoring those who should be honored, the students. And the last one I have here is Susan McKibben. I am writing to urge the board to end funding for school resources and end all partnership with the Long Beach Police Department, Signal Hill Police, and the Sheriff's Department. The danger police in our schools pose to students of color is well documented, and abundant resources exist to provide alternative supports and solutions to conflict. With the savings achieved by disinvesting in police, the district must invest in counselors and other supportive student services for students of color in particular. Finally, I'd like to see my white child, along with all other LBUSD students, educated in the history of African Americans and the history of anti-Blackness and racism in the US. Full K-12 curricula already exists through the Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter at school. Thank you, Susan McKibben. There, keep it.
Next, we have Amber Vera. Amber and Alex, actually Alex and Amber Mendoza. Honorable board members, as parents of 2 children of color in LBUSD, we strongly support Dr. Benitez's framework for reconciliation and change. We have a unique opportunity to be a model and leaders across the country in this effort. It is critical to take action now and show a united front along with the leadership of Long Beach City Council and community members. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So be the leaders to make that change now in service. This is Karen Autry. I am writing this as a very concerned Wilson alumni and president and founder of the Wilson High School Alumni Foundation. While I would never condone racism, I urge you not to consider changing the name of our high school. Scores of proud alumni have called Wilson their alma mater and wear that association as a badge of honor. Changing a name hardly erases history. Current incidents can certainly be valuable in bringing awareness to sensitive issues. We can all take pride in how diverse our school is and the awesome kids that graduate within that culture. We have worked so hard to partner with the school and have helped with the most financial requests made. At this point, we have given close to $130,000 to Wilson. I fear we would have much difficulty raising future funds should the name of our school go away. With Bruin pride. Next is Ryan Autry. I am writing to convey my extreme opposition to the idea of changing the name of Woodrow Wilson High School. I am a graduate, 1979, as is my wife, my 2 kids, and my father. The idea of simply changing a school name to right the wrongs of the past is misguided and ignorant. It is a very short-sighted attempt at a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. The long history of Wilson High School, with its celebrated athletes, entertainers, business leaders, and scholars that have graduated, are being ignored and disrespected in favor of this knee-jerk reaction that is so trendy today. I am a 3rd-generation Long Beach resident who also had his business career here. My wife, Karen, 1979, and I recently created the Wilson High School Alumni Foundation with direct donations of $130,000 plus to the school. Please take a stand and say no to any proposed name change to Wilson High School. This is from Ryan Carroll. Hello, members of the LBUSD board. I have contacted the board member who represents me, and now I bring this issue to the Board of Trustees in whole. end immediately all contracts between LBUSD and the police departments providing resource officers for the schools. Seattle, Minneapolis, and Denver have already voted to remove them, while many others are considering having police in schools. Has always been a mistake, and with the money saved, our schools can employ nurses, psychiatrists, counselors, therapists, or other social professions needed much more than SROs. Thank you for your time. This is from Chris Sibeli. Please don't succumb to the pressure of the moment and the mania of the mob. If any of you have reservations and a distaste for the modern day cancel culture, know that there are many of us that share those sentiments. We support you. Please have the temerity to say no. Send a message that, as it pertains to Wilson High School, enough is enough. Please don't permit a bunch of misguided bullies destroy the rich legacy and proud tradition of Wilson. Thank you for your consideration. Next, we have Dwight Bunce. I am Theodore Dwight Bunce, a 1959 graduate of Woodrow Wilson High School in Long Beach, California. I oppose changing the name of the school. We should learn from history, not hide it. Students should learn how Wilson successfully commanded the military in World War I. He advocated international cooperation and the creation of the League of Nations, which later had limited success. Wilson was not an advocate of civil rights for African Americans. Wilson was a man of his times with a mixed record of presidential success. Naming of the high school for him shows the high regard in which he was held after his death, but before the era in which we now live. Please do not change the name of my high school alma mater. I very much appreciate this opportunity to opine. Thank you. Next.
This is from Carrie Woodward. To whom it may concern, I am writing both as a parent as an educator. I have two children. One just finished the 6th grade in LBUSD. The other is a former LBUSD student. Both are Black girls. I'm also a faculty member in the sociology department at CSULB. I have expertise in racial inequality, and I teach students who graduated from LBUSD. I know that LBUSD has been making inroads in problems that are not unique to our city, such as the racial achievement gap and disparate rates of punishment, expulsion, etc. I have been relatively happy with most of my children's teachers in the district. But as I'm sure you're aware, there are still problems. My kids have been called the N-word at school. They have not had more than 3 Black teachers collectively in a combined 15 plus years in the district. They have had a few teachers who actively sought to bring issues of racial justice or the history of different racial groups into the classroom. But mostly they've had teachers who attempt to ignore race and teach from problematic, colorblind perspective. Most of what my children have learned about the history of Black people in the US, which should be part of US history, has been at home. Here are some of the things that need to happen. 1, comprehensive and repeated anti-bias training for teachers, staff, and administrators. 2, long-term efforts to hire more teachers of color, especially Black teachers. I am fully aware that this is not easy. It is going to require investing in creating a pipeline, in making teaching a more desirable profession, and in improving teacher education programs, among other things. 3, restorative justice programs in every school, and a commitment to ending suspensions and expulsions. 4, inclusive curriculum that addresses the histories, cultures, and circumstances of all racial ethnic groups and discusses racism explicitly, working to undo the bias that research shows even preschool kids have already internalized. The Southern Poverty Law Center's teaching tolerance resources may be helpful in this effort. 5, equitable funding, including private funding. Yes, my kids have benefited from LB schools with strong and lucrative PTAs, but most Black students in the district are in Title I schools. That was 2 minutes. Next is from Terry Cassian. Hello, my name is Terry Cassian, class of 1977. I grew up at Stearns in Lakewood, one of 4 boys, all who attended Woodrow Wilson High School. I played varsity baseball for the late Skip Rowland. If you ever wanted to see old Skipper smile, wear your Wilson varsity letterman's jacket. As I did the evening he passed away, I was in his hospital room and flipped through a few Bruin team photos and told stories within hours of his passing. He loved Wilson High more than anyone. I have played baseball all over the country and lived in several states. I always bragged about my Long Beach Wilson roots. After returning to Southern California in 1990, I got very involved in all kinds of events to help our student athletes. alumni games, alumni golf tournaments, brew and night at Blair Field, wine tasting, and too many to name. After the riots of 1992, I moved to Orange County. So for the last 28 years, I have financially supported Wilson almost as much as my own 2 children's schools. Neither attended Wilson and loved giving back to my beloved high school. In January 2018, I was inducted into the Wilson Athletic Hall of Fame, one of the proudest days of my life. Skipper would have been proud of me. I understand you are voting on this name change. After almost 100 years with Woodrow Wilson as our namesake, the liberal madness of today is out for blood. Where have these people been for the last 100 years? I see no need to make this change. Find some way to honor all the students who have walked your halls and honor our pride. It will all be wiped away in an instant if you make this change. I didn't know this history until a few days ago. Can't we learn from Woodrow and use his mistakes as a teaching tool with our current student body? I'm sure there is a way. If you do change our name, please take my Wall of Fame plaque down. Burn it, trash it, shred it. It will not matter to me. My pride will evaporate. And I will never donate, associate, or be involved with any new school name, fundraiser, or event. No alumni game, alumni golf tournaments, etc. My involvement will end. I'm sure you will cave to the liberal pressure.
Time is
I'd
up.
be shocked
Thank
if
you,
you
Brian.
didn't. Hope I'm wrong. Next is Michelle Brannon. Hello, I'm the parent of a first grader at Bixby Elementary, and I would like to submit this comment for the LBUSD Board of Meeting on Monday, June 15th, 2020. Commenting on agenda item number 25, adoption of district's budget for fiscal year 2020-2021. My comment, these should be top priorities for our school district. Number 1, LBUSD must reinvest in Black children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math. 2, utilize Black Lives Matter in school curriculum. There's a full curriculum for K-12. 3, hire more Black teachers. Over 85% of the district teachers are white. 4, end suspensions and replace with mandatory restorative or formative justice programs. Next is from Donald Crosby. My name is Donald Crosby, 59, and my wife, Faith Osborne Crosby, 62, next to me. My father and mother also both graduated from Wilson. We all went to Woodrow Wilson for 3 years and actually never called it Woodrow Wilson. It was just always Wilson. We also never knew the name of a school dictated the way you were supposed to think of people of other races. Our big game was always against Poly. Poly was a school of color, but that never entered into our minds. We, Don, Jim, Jeff, Dee, Lonzo, and Willie all worked out together at Seaborg's Gym in downtown Long Beach. We were just a bunch of athletes who were friends getting ready to go to war once a year. In our unpolitically correct world, we were not black and white, we were just football players. We all went to LBCC and won the national championship versus Tyler JC from Texas. That school was extremely racially biased, so maybe its name should be changed. President Woodrow Wilson's background had nothing to do with our view of our school. What has happened to our society? You have a chance to change attitudes in the future by not changing a school's name. Be brave, not political, and do the right thing. I am not part of a group which probably didn't go to Wilson, but has an agenda which has nothing to do with Wilson High School. I am just a graduate trying to protect the name of a great high school and its history. Okay, that's the end. We have one from Carol Smith. Hello, my name is Carol Karn Smith, proud graduate of Woodrow Wilson High School, class of 1979, and my husband, Christopher Smith, class of 1977. It has been brought to our attention the proposal to rename our historic high school. We believe this would be a huge error on the parts of those who have the power to do so. This high school and its name are known around the country for its excellence in academics, sports, leadership, and also its traditions. Alumni from many years past enjoy a camaraderie very rare and special in this day and age. We support each other and have also many fundraisers to help the program for today's students that we have never met. Wilson High School is a source of pride in the Long Beach community. Its glorious name must remain intact. We believe that changing the name of our beloved Woodrow Wilson School would be a sad error that would cause the loss of support of its alumni, but more importantly, would erase the memories that have been built on its grounds for 97 years. New schools can be named for the perfect people you choose to represent the Long Beach community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
The next one is from Angela Bell. LBUSD, please reinvest in Black children and close the achievement gap, especially in ELA and math. In our current environment, we hope you see the need to acknowledge that Black lives matter. School curriculum that emphasizes Black lives is necessary. We implore you to hire more Black teachers, counselors, and administration. Over 85% of the district teachers are white. Our children need to see themselves in the leadership that is over them, pouring into them and propelling them forward. What greater gift can you give them than the sight of seeing where their future can be as a teacher, a counselor, or an administrator themselves someday? We ask that on-campus officers are removed and that more counselors that know how to implement restorative or transformative justice programs are hired in their place. Let's move away from suspensions and get our community involved, for we all know it takes a village to raise our children. Thank you in advance for helping to bring about the change that will shape our future generations for greatness. Make us proud in your choices to be LBC. Next is from Theodore Watler. Dear LBUSD School Board, my name is Theodore Watler and I'm a Long Beach Poly alum. Because of the education and the support I received in the Long Beach Poly PACE program, I was able to attend a university in Chicago on scholarship and now work as a professional ballet dancer. However, I recognize that not all students at Poly have access to the same opportunities as students in PACE. I believe it is time to redistribute resources away from punitive measures to investments that better support and uplift Poly students, especially Black and Brown members of the Poly community. Therefore, I am writing to request that LBUSD end its contract with LBPD. Additionally, I believe that resources be diverted away from campus safety officers, CSOs, and instead invested in counselors and youth programs. By moving away from on-campus police presence that surveils and punishes students, I believe that more equitable funding for school tracking and magnet programs alongside better mental health counseling will create a safer environment for LBUSD students, particularly for Black students and students of color. As a PACE program student, I was in classes with many white students and never dealt with CSOs or the LBPD. I know that is not the case for all Poly students. While PACE classrooms are given access to additional research opportunities and college admission counseling, it's also true that police conduct drug searches on academies with primarily Black students and single out Black and Brown students for detention or abuse. I recall lunch hours where I saw students tased. In a school district that predominantly serves students of color, the funding spent on school safety officers could better be used to create additional programming and counseling services for all LBUSD students, creating a richer learning environment than the safety on-campus policing currently attempts to provide. In summary, as a former LBUSD student, I'm requesting that LBUSD ends its contract with LBPD and reallocates funding from CSOs to equitable programming and
Time is up.
counseling for
Thank
all
you.
LBUSD students. Next is from Joy Yamaguchi. Dear LBUSD School Board, my name is Joy Yamaguchi and I am a Longfellow, Hughes, and Poly alum. My time in LBUSD provided me the resources I needed to succeed later at Brown University and now as an employee of the Japanese American National Museum. However, I'm also extremely concerned with the conditions for and safety of students, particularly Black students and students of color, both now and when I was in LBUSD. I'm writing to demand that LBUSD end its contract with LBPD and end the use of school safety officers. To keep students safe and healthy, the district needs to instead invest in more counselors and programs that serve the predominantly student of color population of Long Beach. As a student in the GATE program and PACE, I received many resources from staff and teachers, and as an Asian American student, felt generally safe on campus. However, I know now that I benefited from these privileges as I have heard testimony from Black students at Poly, both past and present, of racial profiling and violence from school safety officers and of the violence they endured during detentions and ACE. Black and Brown students are still singled out for drug searches, detention, and disciplinary action, often being verbally and sexually abused. If LBUSD truly wants to serve its students and provide them with the best possible education, we need to see teachers and staff members who are from the neighborhoods the students come from and who can provide an understanding and safe learning environment. We need to see more money into all academies, not just predominantly white ones that bring in funding. And we need to see restorative and transformative justice practices, not mimicries of prison systems. There's no reason for guns and tasers to be used against children on campuses, but there's a huge need for mental health resources led by staff that have a racial and social justice and trauma-informed background. Again, I ask a former student of LBUSD, current Long Beach resident, and concerned constituent and taxpayer that the LBUSD School Board listens to the voices and demands.
Time is up. Thank you.
LBUSD must end policing in schools and invest in thoughtful, diverse, and equitable resources for students of color. Next is from J. Casey Cox. To whom it may concern, I have been notified by my friend and mutual 1959 graduate of Woodrow Wilson High School, Dawn Crosby, now living in Huntington Beach, of a discussion to change the name of our alma mater. As a graduate of Wilson High School and a member of Wilson's Sports Hall of Fame, plus a member of the Long Beach Baseball Hall of Fame, I totally oppose changing the name of the city's largest high school. Wilson High School has been in existence nearly 100 years. Is there no respect for such a school and its history? As a Major League Baseball player from 1966 to 1973, born and raised in Long Beach, I hope my vote will count to keep the name of Woodrow Wilson High. If it could survive the 1933 earthquake, this disturbance should be nothing more than a tremor. You will also be hearing from my sister, Ann Cox Hubbard, 1961 graduate and valedictorian of her class. Next is from Lynn Clark. Please be advised that I am against considering changing the name of Wilson High School. 94 years of graduating classes have Wilson High School on their diplomas, and the name is known nationwide as having a reputation for excellence, both in the classroom and in athletics. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, next we have Lauren Kelly. LBUSD, I am writing on behalf of my family to express support for adopting Long Beach's framework for reconciliation within LBUSD. We live in District 4 and we love our home school, Lowell Elementary. However, we know that not all schools and students have the same opportunities to excel and thrive. This is a moment unlike any in our lifetime, where there is momentum and attention placed on dismantling structural inequities. I urge you to seize this moment and adopt the framework. Best regards. This is from Trish Shuley. Dear Board of Education, as a supposedly educated people, how can you possibly consider thinking that changing the name of a school changes history? Even if you change the name, will you then not teach U.S. history about the part Woodrow Wilson played in creating it? As a parent of 3 children who graduated from Wilson High School, I am totally against changing the name. Please don't do this. Next, we have Leah McCauley. Hello, I'm a parent of a TK child in this district. I'm also a junior teacher in another school district. I would like to see a mandatory course in this school district that teaches students about diverse cultures and their oppressed histories in the United States. This class should also cover what restorative justice is and how to take nonviolent action to make social change. Additionally, I would like to see this district hire more teachers of color. The district in which I work needs to make the same changes. I'm excited to work on these changes as both a parent and a teacher. This is from Natalie Pocino regarding policing in Long Beach schools. Dear LBUSD School Board, my name is Natalie Pocino, and I am a former student of the Long Beach school system at Lowell, Stanford Middle School, and Poly High School. I'm writing to request that LBUSD ends its contract with the police, as well as address reports of blatantly racist harassment from teachers at Poly High School. The presence of police officers in a learning environment is oppressive and distracting, and leads to harassment and abuse of students of color. While I am proud of the education I received at Poly High School in the PACE program, the school still has a long way to go in terms of understanding and appreciating its racial diversity. I believe this is a critical time for our country to reckon with its reliance on brutal and historically racist law enforcement. While I am a former student, what I ask for most is that you listen to the demands of your current students above all. It is their education and their lives. If you are not considering their safety and health, both of which are put at risk from abuse from CSOs and racist teachers, then what exactly is influencing your decisions? Me or you?
Next is Linda Pillsbury. Outrageous idea. I want my tax dollars spent on education, not name changing of schools we love and are proud of. Woodrow Wilson was president when the 19th Amendment was passed allowing women to vote. Time you spent your time on the positive things Woodrow Wilson accomplished during his term as president. Our entire family has graduated from Wilson, and many have spent entire careers working at Wilson. Do not change the name. This is Lucy Johnson. To the distinguished members of the LBUSD Board of Education, history cannot be erased. Please reject the proposal to change the name of Woodrow Wilson High School. Woodrow Wilson, the 28th U.S. President, served in office from 1913 to 1921 and led America through World War I. An advocate for democracy and world peace, Wilson is often ranked by historians as one of the nation's greatest presidents. Wilson was a college professor, university president, and Democratic governor of New Jersey before winning the White House in 1912. Once in office, he pursued an ambitious agenda of progressive reform that included the establishment of the Federal Reserve and Federal Trade Commission. Wilson tried to keep the United States neutral during World War I, but ultimately called on Congress to declare war on Germany in 1917. After the war, he helped negotiate a peace treaty that included a plan for the League of Nations. Although the Senate rejected U.S. membership in the League, Wilson received the Nobel Prize for his peacekeeping efforts. While I did not attend Wilson High School, I have lived in Long Beach for 40 years. I personally know many alumni of the school and of the accomplishments of many more. They are proud to be graduates of Woodrow Wilson High School. Thank you for considering my position. Next is from Sandy Davidson. I oppose the name change of Woodrow Wilson High School and believe it is an extremely divisive issue for East Long Beach. Times have been tough. Take it easy on cultural correctness. Don't obscure 94 years of history. Next is from Alexandra Noyes. Valued school board, as a former LBUSD student and the daughter of a longtime Poly teacher, I urge you to add an ethnic studies graduation requirement. You have the power to make the world a better place. Next is from Jasmine Flores. Dear LBUSD School Board, my name is Jasmine Flores and I'm a registered nurse and college student. I was a student at Tincher Preparatory and Wilson Classical High School and in LBUSD. I am writing to request that LBUSD ends its contract with LBPD, divert resources away from school peace officers and invest in counselors and youth programs. I support this because police presence at our schools does not promote safety for our students, especially our Black and people of color students. Police are much more likely to point their lethal guns at Black people and children. A campus full of children never needs guns. Our students need the support of culturally competent counselors, psychologists, administrators, and teachers in order to provide the best education and learning environment. When I was a student at LBUSD, I did not feel safe with the potentially lethal presence of police. The support and guidance of diverse teachers and counselors provided me great role models. Police is not needed in an environment of children. In summary, I am requesting that you break the contract with police in all LBUSD schools and use available funds to increase the number of culturally competent staff, counselors, administrators, psychologists, nurses, and teachers. Our children need a safe place to learn. Provide that safety by removing police and their aggressive force. The next is Lauren Wynn. Dear LBUSD School Board, my name is Lauren Wynn and I am a graduate of Long Beach Poly High School. I go to UC Santa Cruz and I work in grassroots fundraising. I am writing to request that LBUSD ends its contract with LBPD, divert resources away from school peace officers and invest in counselors and youth programs. The school to prison pipeline shouldn't be a reality, but it is. I want to make sure that kids aren't scared to go to school because of the way they are treated. School is not prison, students are not criminals, and they shouldn't be treated as such just because of the color of their skin, their socioeconomic status, their grades, or for any matter. Invest in counseling. Invest in supporting your students instead of policing them. Students are children. They make mistakes and they learn from them. That is how they grow and develop as people. They can't get better and they can't get help if they're being arrested and threatened by police. They need help, they need support, they need counselors. At Poly, we have this great resource called the Care Center, headed by Michael Gray. This was a safe place for students to come if they were having trouble at home. We're struggling with grades, we're fighting with a classmate, or for any other reason needed support. I was a peer counselor, so I got to hear students' struggles. Their lives are hard enough trying to juggle home life and school. They don't need law enforcement dangled over their head as a punishment. The Care Center is a fantastic resource to have. It gives students support that they don't have otherwise, and it helps prevent them from acting out or becoming discouraged at school. The Care Center and its head counselor, Michael Gray, worked in tandem with different academies, counselors, to help students in the whole school. Invest in counselors. Invest in programs like the Care Center. Look for guidance from Michael Gray at Long Beach Poly. In
Time's
summary,
up,
I'm
Brian.
requesting that
Thank you.
LBUSD ends its contract with LBPD, divert resources away from school peace officers, and invest in counselors and youth programs.
This next one is from Josephine Liu. My name is Josephine Liu, and I'm a 23-year-old clinical research coordinator that works in DTLB at an HIV clinic. I was born and raised here in Long Beach and currently a student at CSULB. I have 3 younger siblings that will be attending LBUSD schools until they've gone off to college. I work closely with disadvantaged members of our community and know firsthand as a non-Black POC ally how important it is to foster an environment rich with resources to care for people who need it. I'm writing to request that LBUSD end its contract with LBPD, divert resources away from school peace officers, and invest in counselors and youth programs. I support this change because we need to make sure our youth feel like they can trust the environment they're being brought up in. The youth are the future of our world. We need to have public programs that facilitate their mental health and growth, because most of the time, if they're not at home with their families, these kids are at school learning, and hopefully they're being nurtured and supported by the institution that prepares them for a lifelong of success. I went to Woodrow Wilson High School and graduated in 2015. My mother went there in the 90s, and we share very similar accounts of school life, what school life was like on campus. Different races and ethnicities section themselves off in different areas of the school. Non-accelerated AP courses had predominantly BIPOC students. Teachers had closer relationships with the white students and their parents. These students seemed to have a grip and control over the way things went in classes sometimes. I'll never forget during my senior year, a school scandal occurred that angered so many to the core. A non-Black person of color student was accused of changing grades for other students in exchange for money. This student was the only one who faced expulsion. Meanwhile, the students who were seeking the grade changes did not face consequences. Most of the students who were involved were white, but did not face any consequences. If they did face any consequences, they were not to the magnitude of expulsion.
Time is up. Thank you.
Students were part of ASB and were affluent. The next one is from Gabrielle Gonzalez. Dear LBUSD School Board, my name is Gabrielle Isabella Gonzalez, and I am an alum of Longfellow Elementary School, Hughes Middle School, Polytechnic High School. Long Beach Unified gave me the resources for graduating University of Oregon. I now work at a law firm in downtown LA and live in Long Beach, California. However, I am extremely concerned about the well-being for students, particularly the Black and Brown students. I'm writing to request that LBUSD ends its contract with LBPD and end the uses of school safety officers. To keep the students safe and healthy, the district needs to invest in more mental health counselors and programs that serve the predominantly students of color of Long Beach. As a student of Longfellow Elementary School, I was bullied tremendously. I would ask my teachers to help, and most of them never got involved in a meaningful way. I wish our teachers were trained accurately to help children's struggles of bullying. So I cannot even imagine being a Black student and never feeling safe at school that doesn't respect you. However, I know from many accounts that many Black and Brown students have experienced racial profiling and violence from teachers, school safety officers, and the horrible detentions, ACE. Black and Brown students are singled out for drug searches, detentions, and through disciplinary action, often verbally, physically, and sexually abused. LBUSD needs to help their students, and it's not with police officers. We need healthy school lunches. We need air conditioning in our hot school buildings. We need to see teachers and staff members from the neighborhoods that are teaching our students. We need more money in our academia and not the predominantly white programs. We need to see restorative and transformative justice practices, not mimics of a prison system. There is no reason to have guns and tasers to be used against children. We need mental health resources led by staff that have a racial and social justice and trauma-trained background. As a former
Time is up.
student of LBUSD, current resident of Long Beach, concerned constituent and taxpayer, that the LBUSD School Board listens to the voices and demands of the students. This one is from Josephine Shetty. Dear LBUSD School Board, my name is Josephine and I am a graduate student, middle school music teacher, and musician from Los Angeles. I'm writing to demand that LBUSD end its contract with LBPD, divert resources away from school peace officers, and invest in more counselors and youth programs that directly benefit the mental and physical health of students. It is inhumane to subject youth to the violence, racism, and profiling of police. These students are our future, and we should treat them as such with love, care, investment, and guidance, not hostility, fear, oppression, and violence. History is being made right now with the mass movements to defund the police and protect Black futures. What role will you play in the reimagining of safety, security, and wellness in America? What role will you play in the future of your students? Every shift of consciousness in history was made through people power, not the heroism of any one political leader. And youth have been at the forefront of many social justice, environmental, and civil rights movements. Teachers have played major roles in workers' rights movements. If every limb of the youth education body is reaching towards a liberated future and the school board is stuck in a carceral past, we'll move forward without you. Join us in taking power from the police and putting it in the hands of our community. Next is from Elise Sargent. Dear LBUSD School Board, my name is Elise Sargent and I am a Long Beach Poly alumni. I'm writing to request that LBUSD ends its contract with LBPD, divert resources away from school peace officers, and invest in counselors and youth programs. Throughout the history, police officers and their dogs have been used to target, intimidate, and attack Black people. This began during slavery, as the first cops in history were originally slave catchers, and their dogs were used to capture and attack slaves. During the civil rights movement, when racist police and their dogs were trained to be aggressive with Black people and attack them if they didn't abide by the social laws put into place to keep them segregated. Lastly, in modern history, when police are wrongfully targeting Black people based on assumptions and making them feel dehumanized and unsafe. In summary, I am requesting that you end your contract with LBPD, divert resources away from school peace officers, and invest in counselors and youth programs. This is from Pagan Urich. Hello, I am the mother of an LBUSD student. I'm concerned about the achievement gap in LBUSD. I'm concerned about the lack of diversity in the teaching staff. I would love to see restorative justice programs in the schools. Please keep police out of our schools and make sure the kids have social workers, nurses, and counselors.
The next is from Patty Allen. Friends, on Monday, June 15th, the LBUSD Board of Education is considering a proposal from a group trying to change the name of Wilson High School. 94 years of graduating classes have Wilson High School on their diplomas, and the name is known nationwide as having a reputation for excellence, both in the classroom and in athletics. Please don't make this change. This is from Jacqueline Cruz. Dear LBUSD School Board, my name is Jacqueline Cruz, and I am concerned mother of two former LBUSD students. I am writing to request that LBUSD ends its contract with LBPD, divert resources away from school peace officers, and invest in counselors and youth programs. Schools and learning should be safe spaces for all of our children. Having police in schools makes it an unsafe environment for all our children, especially Black children. I've heard numerous stories from my sons where school police have made their schools unsafe environment by racial profiling. If children don't feel safe, they cannot learn. The money saved from removing school officers should be used to provide much needed resources in our schools. Most of the problems where assistance from the school police is sought could be handled by a trained mental health professional. Our children desperately need counselors and therapists to help them succeed. In summary, I'm requesting that you remove school police and divert those funds to other areas so desperately needed by our children. Next is by Gilbert Bonilla. Good evening, board members, superintendent, and staff. My name is Gilbert Bonilla Jr., CSEA President, Long Beach Chapter 2, and my statement this evening is about equity, about fairness, about morally right and wrong. I quote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." I'm here to convey that our CSEA classified membership are united with our TAL brothers and sisters along with parent groups. We are all here tonight in solidarity, watching and voicing our concerns of discontent with the decision of the district to grant a $58,000 raise for the incoming superintendent plus raises for select administrators. This is not the time. If it were the right time, then everyone across the board would share in that. With the coming of pending hourly reductions, furloughs, and layoffs for our CSEA classified workers of LBUSD during these stressful times of the pandemic effects, civil unrest regarding more injustice, feeling troubled that the district doesn't care about them, disturbed that the government doesn't care about the rights of the people, morally, this is not the right time. Our members are feeling trapped in a system of injustice with the district on through to the nation. As president of CSEA Long Beach Chapter 2, I hear the members' cries, I feel their pain, and I see and hear their rage and desperation. The membership places great pride in our support of students' success in their education. However, members, some of whom are parents of LBUSD students, have trouble getting food, paying rent, and are in a high state of emotional strain, not knowing if they will have a job. I have been there in their shoes. Though none of you are in this situation and are far removed, I ask you to imagine yourselves as them right now. Put yourselves in their shoes and think what you would be asking the Board of Education to do. I implore you all, it is important, imperative, and indispensable that you all do the right thing. I am home working many volunteer hours on the weekend and evenings for our members to have better wages, just so they can survive another day, better working conditions where members don't have to feel intimidated and are safe, and better benefits in a system that is inequitable with absence of parity.
Time
Thank
is
you,
up,
Dr.
Brian.
Benitez, for having the wisdom, courage, and ethics.
Time is up, and we have time for
That
one
is
more
the end, and I
comment.
believe that we are at our hour.
One more comment. One more.
One more. The last one, this is from Diana Schmelzer. Dear school board members, please do not change the name of Wilson High School. I graduated in 1960 and was vice president of the student body that year. My memories of this school are strong. After living 35 years in Virginia, I returned home to California and live in the house my family built in Naples and became the principal at University High School in Irvine for 11 years. So I know the value of the school name to the students. I support the all-night graduation party at Wilson. Once again, please leave the name of Wilson High School the same.
Thank you. Okay. We're done, Dr. Williams.
Dr. Williams, you need to unmute.
Again, thank you, Letitia. Thank you, Brian and Christy, for other duties as assigned and all that good stuff. Appreciate it. We are now at business items. Personnel, Mr. Meyer.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. I present the following proposed actions prepared by the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resource Services, approved and recommended by the superintendent. Classified and exempt personnel, appointments 3, leaves of absence 21, termination of service 1, resignations 8, retirement 6, amendments 2. Certificated personnel, appointment 73, in-service changes 2, leaves of absence 4, resignations 1, retirements 19, amendments 1, and I move approval.
Second.
Discussion. We will vote voicemail. All in favor, beginning with Megan Kerr.
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Craighead,
Aye.
Benitez,
Aye.
and I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Instruction.
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Voice vote. All in favor, Ms. Kerr,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Craighead,
Aye.
Dr. Benitez,
Aye.
and I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Finance report A.
I move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Voice vote. All in favor, Ms. Kerr,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Craighead,
Aye.
Benitez.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Finance report B.
I move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I recuse myself from participation in Finance Report B on the consent calendar. I have a potential financial interest under Government Code 1091 and 87100. My husband works for a subcontractor who has done work for the payees.
Thank you. Further discussion? Voice vote. All in favor, Member Meyer,
Aye.
Member Craighead,
Aye.
Member Benitez.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved 4-0 with one recusal. Business Department report.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? Voice vote, all in favor, Ms. Kerr,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Ms. Craighead,
Aye.
Dr. Benitez.
Aye.
I vote aye, the motion is approved unanimously. Purchasing and Contracts Report A.
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Voice vote, all in favor, Ms. Kerr,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Ms. Craighead,
Aye.
Dr. Benitez.
Aye.
I vote aye, the motion is approved unanimously. Purchasing and Contracts Report B.
I move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I recuse myself from participation in purchasing and contract report B on the consent calendar. I have a potential financial interest under Government Code 1091 and 87100. My husband works for a subcontractor who has done work for the awardees.
Thank you very much. Voice vote, beginning with Mr. Meyer,
Aye.
Ms. Craighead,
Aye.
Dr. Benitez.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved 4-0 with one recusal. We're now at other items, superintendent items, student readmits.
Yes, Mr. President and members of the board, we have 4 students to readmit to schools within the district. So I'll read all the numbers and we can do one vote. Student 216, student 396, student 705, and student 313.
I move approval.
Second.
Discussion. Voice vote. All in favor, Ms. Kerr,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Ms. Craighead,
Aye.
Dr. Benitez.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Administrative assignments.
Yes, Mr. President and members of the board, Dr. Baker will read the assignments.
On behalf of the superintendent, I recommend the following administrative assignments. The first is Paula Spinker from assistant principal at Robinson to principal at Naples Elementary. At the MSK8 level, Tori Baker, assistant principal at Lindbergh to assistant principal at Robinson. And Danielle Jimenez from assistant principal at Cabrillo to assistant principal at Lindbergh. At the high school level, Ellie Lund from teacher on special assignment at Washington to assistant principal at Cabrillo. And Mona Merlot, principal on special assignment at the high school office to principal Lakewood High School. Also at the high school level, Gail Mashburn, head counselor at Pauley to head counselor at Millikan. And Lolo Saldana, head counselor at Millikan to head counselor at Pauley. Non-level administrative assignments include Dr. Seema Paul from administrative assistant, Office of School Support Services to program administrator, Office of School Support Services. And Susan Caskey, a teacher on special assignment in the Office of School Support Services to administrative assistant, Office of School Support Services. Elizabeth Turner, a teacher on special assignment in the Office of Curriculum, Instruction, and Professional Development to program specialist, GATE, AVID, AP in the Office of Curriculum, Instruction, and Professional Development. Also non-level, Sean Abbott, principal at Lakewood to Measure E, liaison in the facilities branch. Other non-level assignments, Dr. Christy Kale from assistant superintendent, research and school improvement to assistant superintendent, Office of Curriculum, Instruction, and Professional Development. And I just want to acknowledge Ms. Secchi, who is retiring after many years of service in her role as assistant superintendent in the Office of Curriculum, Instruction, and Professional Development. Chris Brown from director in the high school office to assistant superintendent, research and school improvement. And lastly, not staff moving, but a change in title of a department for Dr. Kelly On, currently the Director of Leadership Development, now Director of Equity Leadership and Talent Development. And this concludes the recommendations.
Thank you very much for that. Can we get a motion?
I move
Move to
approval.
approve.
Okay. Need a second.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I was just going to ask Dr. Baker if she could elaborate a little bit on some of the job work that will happen. You gave us a little bit of insight in some of the interdepartmental work that you're looking to do, and this is part of that readjustment within central office that includes the $1 million in reductions. I just clarifying that keeps those reductions in place as we make these changes, and a little bit about what you expect of some of that work would be helpful.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, these recommendations include the $1 million that I presented at the last board meeting in administrative cuts at central office. Positions will include in the Assistant Superintendent Office of Curriculum Instruction and Professional Development. As Dr. Kale moves into that position and builds on the work of Ms. Seki, she will have a task of engaging in a study of district curriculum to assess cultural relevance and anti-racist stance. In addition, she this year will have the task of developing an equity curriculum advisory committee that includes staff, students, and community stakeholders. And lastly, in addition to the role that Ms. Seki has served in and contributed to our work around dual immersion, Dr. Kale will take our dual immersion work to the next step in developing a leadership team that advances the district's program options for languages. And in the role of Assistant Superintendent of Research and School Improvement, also building on prior staff's work. Chris Brown will be tasked with leading a new technology change management process that has been in pilot stage for the last year and a half, working among several departments. He will be tasked with moving that from pilot work to a change management process and looking at the technology infrastructure in our district to maximize efficiency and to ensure that we are ready for the future of technology in our district. In addition, Chris Brown will work with Dr. Simon, who I shared at the last board meeting, and her appointment will be launching a new SEL strategy and work that we will do into the future around social emotional learning. And Chris Brown will be partnering with Dr. Simon to develop tools for ongoing monitoring and measurement of social emotional learning, along with continuing the work of Dr. Lunn and Dr. Kale, who have built over time systems to drill down into issues of equity across our K-12 schools. Chris will continue that journey for us and being able to center equity in all of these positions. And then lastly, while not an administrative change, the title change to our Office of Leadership Development to center equity at the forefront of all of our efforts to develop teacher leaders as well as administrative leaders from the classroom and those who aspire to be assistant superintendent or perhaps superintendent in the future of our district. Dr. Ahn will incorporate new equity-centered talent development programs. She works with Human Resource Services and the leadership of David Zay to address issues of workplace diversity, including the thinking about how to engage high school students and thinking about teaching as a career. Dr. Ahn has been highly involved in our principal supervisor initiative and right now is leading the Wallace Exploratory Test, which has been an opportunity for us to delve deeply into our equity stance in the district, to do a study, including engaging board members, stakeholders from the community, as well as other staff and teachers and others to help us to think about next steps that we want to take in our equity journey. And I expect that she will be able to respond. We're hoping to be able to respond to an RFP from the Wallace Foundation that stands to really financially support our district in taking our next steps in the area of equity. So in culmination between the two board meetings, you have seen us take major steps in terms of tasks for staff in response to your leadership and in response to the continuous improvement journey that our district is on to advance equity across the school system.
Thank you, Jill. To Pamela, what a surprise, but we want to wish you the best going forward. And, and thinking about what you've been able to bring to this district, it's immeasurable. And the best to you and your future endeavors, Pamela. And, you know, one thing about leaving Long Beach Unified School District, you're still on a rope when they want to bring you back. So get ready for that going forward. Okay, further discussion.
Dr. Williams, may I just add one thing also? In the reduction of positions, we reduced a deputy superintendent position, and along with acknowledging Ms. Secchi and Mr. Steinhauser, I'd also like to acknowledge retiring Deputy Superintendent of Education Services, Ruth Ashley, who's in the room with us today. Please take a moment.
Wait from me.
to acknowledge her. This is her last board meeting.
I was going to catch that a little later, Jim, but that's all right. All right, thank you so much. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the administrative assignments. Further discussion? Okay, voicemail vote, all in favor, Ms. Kerr,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Craighead,
Aye.
Dr. Benitez.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. We're at unfinished business. There is none. New business, adoption of district's budget for FY 2020-21. Yumi? You haven't left us, have you, Yumi?
No, I'm still here. I'd be happy to provide a recap of the information that was provided on June 2nd regarding our budget. So although you are required to pass a budget by June 30th, the budget for 2021 will continue to evolve. The budget that we have before you tonight is based on available information that we have now, which is the governor's May revision and planning information from the Department of Finance, which includes a 10% reduction to the local control funding formula and reductions to categorical programs, which amounts to over $70 million to our district budget, cash deferrals, increased special education funding, the amount of approximately $6 million, a 0% cost of living adjustment in the out years, that coupled with approximately 2% ongoing enrollment decline that we use for our planning assumptions. We've included all known expenses, and we have not included reopening expenses as they are yet to be identified. The governor also proposed $4.4 billion of federal dollars to mitigate learning loss. That detail was not available for us to incorporate into our budget. Although we're headed for very challenging times ahead, we are entering 2021 with a very healthy reserve level of $263.7 million. This reserve will give us cushion and afford us time for real strategic and thoughtful budget planning as we move forward. We know that the legislature about an hour ago, I believe, passed a budget. We also know that there is not a budget deal that has been struck with the governor. So we anxiously await the details of those discussions. We also know that the revenues will be revised in August, in which our revenue picture will likely change. So our budget will be revised when our state revenues become more clear in the August, September timeframe, and when our expenditure plan for reopening is further developed. So we are very appreciative for all the engagement around our budget and look forward to sharing updates and more information when information becomes known. Thank you.
Thank you, Yumi. Need a motion? Need a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Dr. Williams. So thank you, Yumi, for putting that together, and we'll formally celebrate Ruth's retirement tonight as well. But a few thoughts, Yumi, given that you just recapped some of what was shared at our previous board meeting, given the budget cuts, expected budget cuts, given the uncertainty of what this coming academic year is going to look like, given the unknown about declining enrollments in the fall, in the spirit of equity and transparency, I think it's important for us to have some kind of process, formal process between now, if we adopt the budget tonight, and the August revise moving into September. I know it was brought up last time that we'd get more sort of community member input and stakeholder input. We heard a lot of that tonight on this budget. I think this is an opportunity for us to demonstrate that we are truly listening to our community members, and that's fine, but we're not having another meeting till middle of July, and then after that, we're not having another meeting till the end of August. So I'd like for us to consider having a special meeting at some point between now and August, and potentially having some formal spaces to continue providing opportunities for community members to provide substantive input. I mean, we heard a lot of recommendations today that have very important budget considerations. Everything from defunding the police to ethnic studies to implicit bias trainings and anti-racist professional development to funding culturally responsive curriculum. I mean, I can go on. Ethnic studies as a requirement, relationship center schools, restorative justice policies. I mean, all of these things cost money, right? Equity costs, requires resources. So I really do want to, I think it's very important for us to have some kind of formalized process moving forward, a mechanism that both provides a formal way for community members to provide input, but also provides a way for us to demonstrate that the input is resulting in priorities in the budget. So given all that, I just wanted to mention that because there's an opportunity here for us to concretely, in terms of budget, reflect community member perspectives and, if necessary, risk shift priorities. Dr. Baker just, gave us a really good recap of her thinking on these administrative positions, right, to reflect the equity lens that we all want to move forward on. So I want to share that. I'll share some more in my board member report, but I want to share that this is the time for us to, again, think about having formal convenings between now and August. Think about adding potentially 1 or 2 additional meetings between now and August, because we're only going to meet one more time between now and the August revise. So I think we have to provide formal mechanisms for input and discussion on a very important budget, given all of the uncertainties, but certainly considering that we're going to have cuts that we're going to have to make.
Further discussion.
Yeah, Yumi, when does the September revise, when do we have to submit that to the state?
If it affects our budget materially within 45 days of a release of the information from the state.
So potentially if it's released mid-August, we have till mid to the end of September to submit.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And we know that that's a busy time, but an important time to have that conversation. I think part of what we heard tonight and what we know to be true is a lot of this always is a conversation we have around our LCAP. And because of the postponement of the LCAP, because of the budget and because of COVID-19, we know we didn't have those kinds of conversations. So I think we need to, and I brought it up last time as well, having some kind of process for stakeholder engagement and authentic community engagement around it. I know, Dr. Baker, you officially take the reins, I think August 1st. And so I think what we've seen briefly in your administrative picks and your alignment around equity and excellence, I think our August workshop, I think really spending some time and delving deep into the vision that you have as superintendent, it will be an opportunity for you to share with the public in an in-depth way some of your vision moving forward. And I would, since we're not going to really get some of that information until August, that really, as we work together as a governance team and as we work together with stakeholder engagement, with community engagement, authentic parent voices on these really important matters, that moving forward, once we've seen your vision and how we can all work together would be important. So I know it's a busy time of year, that kind of mid-August to mid-September. But I think until we know what the dollars are, that I don't know that engaging folks without having our cohesive vision of where we're moving next year would be as effective in terms of affecting those actual dollars. So I would look forward to having that conversation within the context of the bigger vision for next year and beyond.
And just to restate a couple of things that were shared earlier, we absolutely have plans to have a formal process for engaging stakeholders in budget inputs. Some of it can start before we have dollar figures because it's about prioritizing, and then it will enable us to hear input from stakeholders, from parents, from students, and from staff, and then to study the input and bring forward budget figures that can match up to the input that is given to help us prioritize and make decisions when the time is right. So Ms. Takahashi and I have already developed just our initial thinking about how to do that, and it's something we can come back to you. We're fully aware that there may need to be another board meeting in the meantime as well.
Dr. Baker, on that last point, and I completely agree with Board Member Kerr about taking a deeper dive in August, giving you an opportunity to share that. But for me right now, it's not about funds, it's about priorities, right? Regardless of what that budget scenario looks like in September or in August and then in September, I think we can use this time right now. I mean, our community members are engaged. We're hearing from them. I would highly encourage us to think about those spaces now, even without a budget, because that can still impact priorities once we get some more solid numbers in August or September, whatever that time period is.
Yeah, thank you. That affirms what I just said.
Yes.
And confirms it's one of the reasons why we went out with our partners and did an additional survey as the school year was ending, so that we'd have some really intentional data by working with Californians for Justice and public advocates and Children's Defense Fund staff to be able to do what you're talking about, to look at priorities before we're even able to line it up with the figures.
Thank you, Dr. Baker.
And we will be asking the board later this week for some potential dates in the beginning of August where you might be able to have a meeting.
All right.
That would be great.
Okay. Additional further discussion. Okay, everyone. Voice vote. All in favor? Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
Mr. Meyer?
Aye.
Craighead?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. COVID-19 operations written report.
Yes, this is, you approved this last board meeting, but it has to be approved concurrently with the budget. So you just need to revote your approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. Voice vote. All in favor, Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
Craighead?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. List of candidates for graduation.
Yes, Dr. Williams and members of the board, I just want to point out something very interesting. As you see that the total number of graduates this year is 5,549. That is only 48 students less than last year. It shows the power of our high schools, where our high schools are actually bringing in students in the 9th grade. So kudos to the folks in the high school, especially this year, of having that number so high.
Especially this year. Thank you, Chris. Further discussion.
Do we need to move approval?
Second.
Oh, let me get to go to discussion. Okay. All right, everybody. Let's vote. Voice vote. All in favor, Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
Craighead?
Aye.
Dr. Benitez?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Kids Club Summer Rate Adjustment.
Yes, this is necessary to run our Kids Club program this year so that it's cost efficient and doesn't encroach in the general fund. There are new guidelines, as you all know, with physical distancing and the number of students we can serve. And we have high demand from our parents that want this program. So this is why this rate increase is here.
All right.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Superintendent, given precisely what you just shared, and I know because I have to turn in my packet for Kids Club tomorrow for my now 3rd grader, how can we predict cost, that when we still don't know what our fall is going to look like? And again, we just got the data and what have you, but how do we know that that will cover what it'll end up costing?
But remember, this is just a summer program, so we're not
okay,
talking about the
okay.
fall. This is just
Got it.
for summer. So we've
Got it.
calculated those costs.
Got it. Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, further discussion. Did we have a motion on that?
Yes, you need a motion and second and a vote.
Okay. Is there a further discussion on this, Kids Club? Do you need a loan, a one, or anything like that?
I do. I need someone to float me a 20 so I can cover
Okay,
that.
we might be able to help you there. Pitch in for that. Okay. Let's vote. Voice vote. For folks, all in favor of the motion, Ms. Kerr,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Ms. Craighead,
Aye.
Dr. Benitez.
A tentative aye if I can afford it. Aye.
All right. Like I said, we'll float you alone. Motion, I vote aye. The motion's approved as unanimously. Comprehensive school safety plan. Chris? you wanna-
Yes, this is an annual requirement that we have to do. As you all know, as board members, each school has a school safety plan where they bring it to their school site council. They go over their fire drills, emergency drills, active shooter drills, the entire program that keep our students safe. It has to be presented at a school site council open meeting for public comment. And so this is just sharing that all schools have done that, and this needs to be filed with the state.
Thank you, Chris.
I move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
And just to clarify for those listening, this is approving the safety plans from last year. So these went through the process from fall of 19 until the current year. So this isn't addressing moving forward. These are safety plans that school communities have already put together and put forward, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And to add a comment, those are likely to change dramatically depending upon what our schools look like when we open in the fall.
Yeah.
Right.
Further discussion. Okay, voice vote. All in favor, Ms. Kerr,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Craighead,
Aye.
Dr. Benitez.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Waive selected K-12 contract provisions.
Yes, this is, we have two contracts here, waivers, one for Keller, so they can have a 7-period day for their students, and then dual immersion program, and a block schedule for Lakewood High School. So the teachers have voted for this, the union has approved it, now it's up to you.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. Voice vote. All in favor, Ms. Kerr,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Craighead,
Aye.
Dr. Benitez.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. Resolution number 061520-A, giving notice of intent to dedicate easement to Southern California Edison at Lindbergh Middle School, located at 662 East Market Street, Long Beach, California, 90805, for deteriorated pole replacement and stabilization.
I move approval.
Second.
Discussion. Okay, let's vote, voice vote. All in favor on Ms. Kerr,
Aye.
Mr. Meyer,
Aye.
Ms. Craighead,
Aye.
Dr. Benitez.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved unanimously. We are now at report of board members. Let's start with Megan.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for hanging in there with us. It's been an interesting 2 weeks in that it seems like a lot has happened. And also, when I look at my calendar, not a lot of events. I am so grateful for the community who came out today with their voice to support students, to support our Black students, to center safety and all of the things that they brought up to us as we ponder our budget and as we look forward to making plans moving into the next school year. I want to thank the folks who reached out to me the last couple of weeks individually and as small groups to have these conversations, because we know we need to continue to talk with each other and to center our students in the work as we move forward. So thank you to all of you. I look forward to getting the comments that I wasn't able to hear today. I saw the stack of papers, and I will take them home and take them seriously. I promise you that. I want to reach out to and thank our high school staffs for putting together what was a very non-traditional send-off of our graduates. I know a lot of us didn't know what to expect or how it would turn out. And I think the thing that surprised me the most is how intensely personal the car parade was at Jordan High School. So I spent 3 hours out there at Jordan, and to be able to see graduates and their families, some in caps and gowns, some not, some with their entire family in their car, some with just their friends, some with their dogs. To see them come back onto campus, to see teachers maybe they hadn't seen before, or to see their friends in line was deeply personal and moving. And to the staffs who tried to create that moment, who spent hours blowing up balloons, coming up with the route, being there really just to cheer them on at the end of their 4-year journey. I'm so grateful to those who did that work so intentionally and thoughtfully to create a really personal moment. And no denying that it wasn't the same as a formal walk across a stage and a picture, but it had so much value. And listening to staff at Jordan talk about how we need to do this in addition to the formal process because it's deeply personal. And there was a lot of joy in a time when there hasn't been a lot of joy. And so I want to thank everyone who had a part in that. I want to thank the families for supporting their graduates. Again, accepting that list of graduates is one of the best parts of this job. It's 13 years or more, depending on if they went to preschool with us, of hard work by an entire system that has invested their hearts into these graduates. So to be able to see them off in a different but personal way and really honor the work that they have put in to get through and to soar and to thrive and go on to the next thing is gratifying and hopeful in a time when things have been dark. So to all of our graduates, I am so immensely proud of you. To your families or your carers or whichever community has surrounded you on this journey, I am grateful for that work that they have done to help you reach your goals. And to whatever is next, as I always say, I can't wait to have you back in Long Beach making a difference in the same way that graduates from many decades gave their input today during public comment. So from the 30s to the 50s to 2014, we know that your voice is critical to who we are as community, and I look forward to all that you will do and look forward to being able to support you in your work. I don't expect you to change the world on your own. I will be in the background, giving you a place to sleep and cooking your dinner if I need to. But know that we've got your back as you move forward into your next journey. And I think we're going to talk about Ruth a little later, so I'll leave that alone. But thank you for the time tonight, everyone.
Thank you very much. Mr. Meyer.
Well, thank you, Megan. That was very eloquent. And I think you spoke for all of us when you recognized the work that our graduates have done in their years in the Long Beach Unified and their teachers and their support staff. We are indeed proud of them. I'd like to use my brief bit of time, if I may, to recognize Pam Secchi, who's retiring. Pam was an outstanding teacher when I taught and was principal at Wilson High School and has done so much for our district. A very, very wise person, so well-centered and so wonderful to work with. And secondly, Ruth Ashley, who's also retiring. I think I've known Ruth for at least the last 20 years. I've marveled at her good work, her good spirit, her intelligence. These are two individuals that we're going to deeply miss. Thank you both ladies for all that you've done.
Thank you, John. Dr. Benitez.
Yes, I too want to echo my congratulations to our grads, to our students that promoted, and quite frankly, to all of the students that finished this very challenging and difficult academic year. I want to thank Ruth and Pamela. Pamela, I'm going to miss our check-ins on all things instruction and curriculum and professional development. And I also really want to thank the hundreds of individuals that reached out to me these last couple of weeks, the organizations, everyone that submitted public comments today. Thank you for engaging, for holding us accountable, and for sharing your perspectives on what we should do as a district to dismantle institutional racism and structural inequities. And we have a role to play in that as a district, and our community members have a role to play in that as well. And I strongly believe that Black Lives Matter, and the way that we show and uphold that Black Lives Matter is through our policies, through our budget considerations, through our programs, through our values that we reflect every day. So I also want to congratulate the city of Long Beach for this week adopting a framework for reconciliation in Long Beach as a mechanism to begin dismantling racism, structural inequities, and the white supremacy that drives that institutional racism and structural inequities. I fully support the framework. I'm committed to the approach. And I'd like to ask for our district to put that on an upcoming agenda and for us to take action on considering to adopt a framework for LBUSD that would build on, be in concert with, and in alignment with the work that our city is doing, and in partnership with our institutions, our educational institutions, namely LBCC and CSULB, because I think that's the only way that we demonstrate a concrete commitment. And it's by acknowledging that we have the reminiscences of institutional racism still in our district. It's by listening, like we did so carefully and intently tonight, to our community members, but we need more formal spaces. So we also need to play a role in convening that. So I appreciate Dr. Baker also highlighting that. And then ultimately being a catalyst in that, right? And upholding and reflecting what our community members have been expressing to us. And I won't go into all the details, but it's very specific recommendations. Canceling our contracts with LBPD, requiring of 10,000 employees implicit bias trainings, requiring anti-racism trainings, reflecting it through ethnic studies as a requirement, right? And so expanding on the work that we have with regards to restorative justice. And it's by policy, everyone. If we're going to build on that, then we have to pass policies and include that in our budget consideration. So I think the next 2 months, 2 to 3 months are pivotal. And again, I'd like to see that as an agenda item, and so that we can take action and decide on whether we want to adopt a framework to dismantle racism and eliminate structural inequities. So thank you for everyone for your perspectives, and I look forward to having those conversations and for us upholding these values.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kerr. I'm sorry, Ms. Craighead.
Thank you.
I don't know how I got you mixed up.
You'd be surprised. I get that a lot, actually.
All right.
And I've actually thanked Megan for doing such a good job, because people confuse us, and I get credit for the stuff Megan does, so I'll take it. First of all, I want to congratulate all of our graduating high school seniors, and I want to thank our MSS for that fabulous virtual graduation video. It was so well done. It was truly a celebration that we could all be there, and for the high school staffs who made it possible for our graduating seniors to celebrate safely. And but let me shift gears a little. Although I prefer to use my time during the reports to highlight students and school activities, I feel the need tonight to clarify my position on the compensation package for Dr. Baker. Our current superintendent chose not to take a raise for the entire 18-year tenure that will be concluding next month. And if we were to calculate the percentage of raises given to teachers and just over the last 15 years, it would work out to be a 25% increase. And that includes the years when there were no increases because of the Great Recession. So that wouldn't even be his entire 18 years. That would be only 15 years, and it would be actually more than a 25% increase. And in my tenure on the board, I have personally voted for 18% of those increases on schedule and 3% off schedule. So simply put, our superintendent has been underpaid and the salary starting point has been undervalued. And Dr. Baker holds a doctorate in educational leadership from both Cal State Long Beach and USC. So she's highly educated. She's also experienced. Dr. Baker has a 28-year history just in our school district of dedicated and highly respected work, serving as a deputy superintendent for the last 6 years. And she has been mentored by one of the best superintendents in the country. I'm not going to expand on that, Mr. Chris Steinhauser, but I did say it. Dr. Baker possesses the expertise for the size and complexity of our district, and her salary is only at the low end of average when compared to other districts, and not even districts of our size, but smaller districts. And according to her contract, she will face the same cut to her salary if cuts to other salaries are imposed. She will take the same cut. And Dr. Baker has proposed administrative changes that reflect more than $1 million in savings. And we've been over that tonight at least a couple of times. But the bottom line is that stable leadership is essential for a school system to thrive. And this compensation package reflects that belief. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. And I too just want to weigh in on the graduating class of 2020 because it represents my last graduation as a school board member. This is it. And one of the joys, tremendous joys of being part of the board and this district is being able to go out at a graduation ceremony and look at the joy and the exhilaration on the faces of those students, parents, some of those with kids who are graduating for the first time. And the special treat that I've received, I think, for the last 5 years, and watching the growing numbers of kids, African-American students who have gone through AP and made it through AP with the gold ribbons. From the sparsity of those numbers when I first came in to the major increase across our district, watching those kids with those gold lapels as representing their work in AP. It's been a tremendous uplifting to see all of that take place. And so many other things as people begin to recognize that these kids could compete. They could do well in AP, and they were able to demonstrate their ability to do well in AP, changing the way they have been perceived over the years. I really appreciate watching that take place and what had to happen to get there with that and a number of other things. So it's been particularly gratifying for me as a board member to see some of these kinds of things take place. Looking at the Math Academy and the wonderful things that are occurring with those kids, being able to pivot as a district to recognize those needs and being able to put resources there to deal with that. And speaking of resources, being able to shift resources from the east side in terms of AP to school districts on the west side has been a major plus. And I know when I would ask Chris about pushback that he would get from parents for making those moves, and Chris, I really applaud you. Chris's response would be, you know, it needed to be done. I appreciate that, Chris. I really do. I mean, it's taken, when I've seen that kind of thing happen with other school superintendents across the nation, they didn't last long. I mean, they got beat up pretty badly for that. So I commend you for that. But it's been a terrific ride, and you know, seeing these things go on. But in spite of that, I know there's a lot of room for improvement. And you know, having the opportunity to serve for the past 15 years on the Council of Great City Schools, I've said this before, but Long Beach is way ahead of the game when it comes to the actions that we've taken to promote equity in our district. Way ahead of the game. I look at districts like Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, LA, San Diego, even up north. They all look to Long Beach as an innovator, and that's for a reason. We do care, we do take to heart the success of our students, but some things are structural, they do take time, and right now it's an important moment in history that we have an opportunity to really take a deep dive into some of these structural issues that make it very difficult to have more successful opportunities for our kids. That's critical that we take advantage of that opportunity. And as someone who grew up as part of that and having to deal with a lot of that coming out of San Pedro, with counselors telling me that I will take shop classes and me refusing to take shop classes. And so they stuck me in shorthand with a lot of women, but it was okay. I got through it. And it did work out for me when I got in the military, because shorthand was highly prized. So I didn't have to beat the bushes with the other guys. I was able to get a job working in the office environment. So I understand the importance of education. I understand why it's critical that we have opportunities for our kids to be able to exhibit their skills, to be able to develop to their fullest potential, and to remove those roadblocks that prevent that. So just being on the right page is saying a lot about our ability to move forward as a district. And I look forward to that challenge as well. To my dear friend Ruth Ashley, that I have worked with for the longest, going back to Leadership Long Beach and busing recruits up to the mountains, and the late nights with all of us, and Ruth telling scary jokes around the fireplace, making us almost believe some of the scary jokes. It's been a real joy being able to work with you, Ruth, and watching what you've been able to do as a force in this district. It's been a pleasure with all of that, and we look forward to seeing you continue to move on with your life and do some great things. Thank you again for the opportunity, Ruth. Appreciate it. And Chris, you're getting ready to shift gears as well. It's going to be a bit strange around here after 19 years, you know, but I think you need the break as well, Chris. So you got grandparenting duties to get caught up on and all that good stuff. And I know you're reading all the books right now in the magazines on how to be a perfect grandfather. So continue on, but we're gonna miss you. We're gonna miss Ruth. We're gonna miss our good friend Pamela. We're gonna miss all of you. Lastly, I just want to comment on the speakers that we've had tonight, and they all kind of share into this important moment about what we are and what we can become. And they were very, very thoughtful in terms of their comments and the impact of those comments and what those comments were all about. But it also signals something that is very, very dear and near to a person like me, who had to grow up in a environment where a lot of doors were closed to me, and I had to figure out a way to get through those doors. And it hasn't been an easy ride, but it's one that I would take all over again in terms of what I had to deal with and what it has done to make me a stronger person. It's been, and I say it's not like it's over with. I mean, I still get stopped in certain places by the police. I still get, we thought your light was broken and it's okay. But I think this is a critical moment in the history of this nation. And I do hope we see some major structural changes that begin to open up and allow people to be people and to be able to make contributions going forward. So it's been a major meeting tonight, and I'm going to end it on that note. And I appreciate each and every one of you for the things that we do as a team collectively, and the fact that we're all committed to the end result, and that is making sure that our students are that much better and prepared to go forward. That is the bottom line. So it's not about any of us. It's about the students that we try to make better than they were when they came to us. So on that note, I'm going to end it and say a superintendent's report.
Yes, and Dr. Williams, thank you, and the board. And I apologize to everybody because I know it's been a long night, but I do have a few comments to make because I've been asked by members of the community, and I want to thank those who submitted comments. It takes a lot to do that and to take time out of your busy schedule. But as you all know, we always drive ourselves on facts and data, and we want to build upon that. And I'm so proud of what this district has done and what it will do, as you, the board, have said so well. So it's been mentioned several times that our counseling ratio in the district is 1,000 students to 1. That's not accurate. So at the high school level, it's 500 to 1, with the exception of Jordan, Cabrillo, Beach and Reed, and Renaissance, where it's actually 250 to 1. And the board, you approved that about 3 years ago. So to serve our students who are in the most need. The other piece is that's been mentioned several times tonight that our 85% of our teaching staff is Caucasian. That's not accurate. So actually in our K-12 teaching staff, it's 55% are Caucasian, 9% are African-American, 24% are Hispanic, 7% Asian, 3% Filipino, and 2 who are identified as 2 or more races. And it is actually very accurate, as some of our speakers have said, is that this is really a pipeline development issue, going all the way down into elementary and into the teaching ranks at the university. And 2 years ago, and Dr. Williams sits on this committee, we actually started a new program to give scholarships to teachers who are students of color going into the teaching force, with an emphasis on African-American students to pay for their teaching, the year they do their methods and their student teaching, so they have a scholarship so they don't have to pay for that, and they actually get to work in Long Beach Unified. And David Zaid is actually part of that committee, and he's been doing an active recruitment and diversifying our staff. And if you remember, there was a really bright young man from Jordan who was one of our student board members who wants to be a math teacher, a young African-American male, and David's already reached out to him to offer him a future contract if he finishes his credential and does a great work. He has a spot here in Long Beach Unified. And as Dr. Williams has said so many times, Long Beach has done a lot of great things, but we have a lot more to do. So our graduation rate, for example, this graduation class, 85.6% of our African Americans are graduating on time. That's way above the state average. And of that 85.6%, 70% of them are going to college. Compare that to about 59% at the state level. Is that good enough? Absolutely not. But this district is doing so many things on the right path. And I am so pleased with the people behind me who are going to, as well as the people over here, who are going to lead the work to make this district be that district who will be the district in the nation that will end all the systemic racism and everything that holds our kids back. And that's why the work that's going to go on in the summer is so important as well into the coming years. And this is a long journey. It's like a marathon. You've got to prepare for the wall that you hit at mile 17.
It's not going to be over in a moment. And to Ruth and to Pamela, I just have to say thank you. I'm a hard guy to work with. I ask a lot. I don't give a lot of kudos. You know, being raised in a German household, you were expected to do your best, and you always did your best. And you guys are way above that. I first met Ruth when she visited me when I was teaching summer school many, many, many years ago. And I've always said this, Ruth, you've had the hardest job in the entire district. I truly believe that in my heart. So you guys, it's amazing what you've been able to do. And I owe a huge apology to Dr. Baker. So we all know that we have bosses in our homes, and I'm not the boss in my house. Okay, my wife is a very independent, assertive person. She has told me on more than one occasion that this debate about Dr. Baker's salary is all my fault. And you know what? She's right. She says, Chris, you are the one who has caused this debate. You chose not to change your salary. That's on you, not on Dr. Baker, not on anybody else. Dr. Baker is more than well qualified to do the job. I apologize to Dr. Baker and all other superintendents for that matter, to be honest with you, because for my own reason, I caused that problem. And so if anybody wants to get mad in the public, be mad at me, okay? I'm the one that did that. I'm so proud of what this district has done, but I'm so excited about what the district's going to do. And so I would just commend all of you to go forth, to do the great job and rally together as a team, because it's going to get hard. People are going to criticize you from every angle, and you have always done what's right for kids. And I will be watching from the sidelines, cheering you on. I promise you I will not come to board meetings. So I might watch live stream, but today is my last board meeting too. So I'm very excited about, because I'll be on vacation for the most of the month of July. Obviously I'll be available to staff as they need me, but I'm so excited about what the future holds. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and keep up the good job.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it very much. We'll get those parenting, grandparenting books to you on short order. Thank you so much. Are there announcements?
I would like to make one if I may, since this is Chris's last board meeting, and I reflect on him as a tough little guard on our championship football team back in 1976, an outstanding student in my history class and anthropology class, a wonderful, wonderful mentor, a great superintendent, a fabulous human being. Thanks, Chris. You're the best.
All right. Any other comments?
Yeah, unfair of him to say this is his last meeting. I thought we had one more, so I will echo Mr. Meyer's comments. And as a 17-year parent in this district, for your entire tenure, my children were here. I am so incredibly grateful for your leadership. Thank you. And I will stop there. And I want to, for our community members who want to get involved in getting their voices heard, to reflect, to march, to rise up, to protest. There are some wonderful events happening in all different parts of our community, in every neighborhood. So find a place to be, whether it's on your bike, in your car, at a candlelight vigil. I'm so grateful for you continuing to have your voices heard. So find those events and be there if you can, and be safe.
Let me just echo that, Megan, but I would hope that as they go out and demonstrate that they understand what the need is for that, and not destroy and just you know, I mean, a lot of the businesses that have been hit hard are businesses that serve our community, the people in our community, and taking opportunities for work away from people in the community. So I would hope that they have that in mind as they go out, and that this peaceful demonstration reflects very well on the real needs of the problems that we have in this country. Other remarks?
Yes, yes. I would just like to take the opportunity to just simply thank Mr. Steinhauser for all of his years of service and dedication to the district. And just to remind everybody that we were strongly admonished not to do anything. And it took a global pandemic for him to make a quiet exit out of this district. And he just leaves without any fanfare, just the way he wants it. But it took the state of California to say that we couldn't gather as a group of more than 50 to honor him. But he told us in the beginning, when he announced his retirement, that we weren't allowed to gather in his honor for a retirement. So that's what we get. Just know that we appreciate everything you've done. And also to Ruth Ashley, we love you. Pamela Secchi, we love you. We have the best people. And to hear that you're excited about our future as a district feels wonderful, because we know we're in good hands. We know we're on the right path. We are open to what's happening. We embrace it. And I too look forward to what's happening. Well, where we're going to go as a district so that we can be part of the solution. And thank you everybody for staying with us. Thank you to our staff for working around the clock today, and hurry up and go to bed because you're going to have to come back soon.
It's true.
Thank you very much. All right, everybody. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Good night, everybody, and thank you very much.
Good night, all.
Good night, everyone.